Chapter 469. Li Fan felt that he seemed to have seen Yin Xiaoru just now. However, this flying cat should not be in Wudong at this time. It was probably having fun somewhere else. Li Fan followed Su Jinrong. The two of them circled around the Wudong sect. They were a little confused. No one could find Murong Ying and Master Yu Su of Shaolin Temple. It seems that the two of them are locked in a secret room, Su Jinrong muttered. Su Jinrong muttered, "This is not good. The other Wudong disciples don't know where the two of them are. Leave it to me." As Li Fan spoke, he turned his head and saw that Yushi was standing behind him without him noticing. Seeing him, Su Jinrong gasped. "Oh my God, isn't this the Black Guard Heartless Saber of the Genie Guard? Why is she here, and she seems to know Li Fan? Have you found it?" Li Fan asked. "Found it." Yushi gave Li Fan a satisfactory answer. "In a secret room in the true martial hall. Yes, I'll have to trouble Heartless Saber to bring us there." Li Fan was very polite in front of outsiders. He did not want others to know about his relationship with Yushi, so as not to bring unnecessary trouble to Yushi. "Not at all. Please." Yushi also showed a very polite look. She pointed in the direction of the true martial hall. Su Jinrong also greeted Yushi politely. After all, the Genie Guard was the official's family. Except for the weirdos like Li Fan and Murong Ying, who were not very respectful, the rest of the sects and organizations had to be respectful to the Genie Guard. Especially the Black Guard of the Genie Guard, this was the absolute authority. It was said that they had the power to kill the martial artists, and they could kill first and report later. If they could get the support of the Genie Guard, then Whistling West Wind was likely to become the most powerful of the four alliances. This was what Whistling West Wind had always wanted to do, to become the real #1 alliance. There were actually 4 alliances in the pugilistic world. That was simply too many. Su Jinrong tried his best to please Yushi, but Yushi basically ignored him and only talked to Li Fan. However, Su Jinrong wasn't angry. After all, he felt that a person as high and mighty as Yushi should act like this. Right here, there's a secret passage. Yushi led Li Fan and Su Jinrong into a secret passage behind the true martial palace. Li Fan was curious. "How did you find this secret passage?" "There's a strange wind." Yushi gave a very simple explanation. Li Fan said, "Is this woman a hunting dog?" Fortunately, she wasn't his enemy. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. This woman did have some skills in tracking. Otherwise, how could she have snuck into a service center to find him? It's so deep here. Su Jinrong walked down the long corridor and looked at the surroundings. He felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't expect that there would be such a place in a righteous sect like Wudong. Every sect has some secrets. There's nothing to be surprised about. Li Fan said that when he was on Mount Hua, the secret passage was still hidden in the well. That sour feeling at the bottom of the well. Needless to say, it was unforgettable. The 3 of them went all the way to the depths. There was a dungeon set up here that wasn't very big, but there was a very narrow passage in front of the dungeon. There was only a tall figure standing in front of it, motionless like a stone statue. "What is this? A statue of Wudong?" Li Fan looked at the almost 2-meter tall statue in front of him and couldn't help but ask. "Don't touch it." Yushi grabbed the curious Li Fan. Su Jinrong also subconsciously pulled out his golden sabers and looked at the stone statue in front of him nervously. "What's wrong?" Li Fan was a little surprised. Why did Yushi and Su Jinrong have such big reactions? "Young hero Li, this is not a statue. This is a gray man." Su Jinrong reminded Li Fan, "They are monsters in human skin specially created by the devil cult. These people have a virus on them. If you touch them, you will be infected." Li Fan was stunned for a moment. This devil cult is too much. They actually made this kind of biological weapon? These people no longer have any rationality. They are acting based on instinct. Su Jinrong was very nervous. It should be said that he was extremely nervous. This thing is not a kind person. I don't want to be infected by this damn virus. What effect does this virus have? Li Fan asked while retreating. It can destroy people's skin, leaving only muscles on the body. Su Jinrong pointed at the man in front of him who looked like a stone. They are like this? They don't have skin. The stone is branded on their muscles. Becoming like this. The devil cult is really scary. Li Fan couldn't help but shudder. This is not a joke. If a person lived like this, how much pain would it be? This gray man seemed to prove Li Fan's thoughts. He suddenly moved slowly and let out an extremely painful roar. Then he pulled up an iron chain from the ground. With a clattering sound, the man in gray dragged out a rusty iron anchor from the ground beside him. The huge iron anchor in his hand is like a toy. He casually swung it a few times and then threw it towards Li Fan and the rest. The iron anchor cut through the air and made a swishing sound. In a blink of an eye, it is in front of Li Fan and the rest. I will protect you, Su Jinrong said as he raised his golden blades and placed it on the huge iron anchor. Clang. His arms sank and his knees kneeled on the ground, creating a pit on the ground. That gray man, his strength was a bit too strong. Step back. Yushi stepped forward and pulled out the black blade in her hand. A black crescent-shaped blade flew out and instantly cut the iron chain in half. Following that, Yushi threw out 2 more blades. 2 crescent moons cut the gray man's body into 4 pieces. Yushi's heartless blade is unstoppable. At this moment, she finally displayed her strength. Behind the gray man is a stone door. Yushi once again cut it into 4 pieces with the black blade and it fell to the other side of the door. On the other side of the door is a metal cage. Inside is a beautiful woman and an old monk. You came too late. Murong-ing crossed her arms and leaned against the wall. She stood there and looked at Li Fan with dissatisfaction. I haven't bathed for a few days. It's so uncomfortable. If I force you, I will throw you in there for a few more days. Li Fan rolled his eyes. I am your benefactor now. Can't you be more polite? You are my husband. You should have saved me. Murong-ing's tone is still domineering. Quickly help me open the cage. Chapter 470. Li Fan walks to the front of the cage and looks at Murong-ing who is sitting in the cage. He squats down with a smile and says to her, Quick, call me hubby. You, say hubby I beg you. Quickly open the door for me. Dream on. With Murong-ing's temper, how can she allow Li Fan to tease her like this? At that moment she is unbearably angry. If not for the fact that I can't circulate my chi, I will definitely tear your stinky mouth apart. Ayaya, if you can circulate your chi, do you still need me to save you? Li Fan resumes his old job and starts to tease his alliance leader's fiancée. My alliance leader's wife, why has your logical thinking ability become bad after being locked up for a few days? You are courting death. Murong-ing is unbearably angry, but she can't do anything to Li Fan. Look, you are angry again. Li Fan squats there and says with a smile, Fortunately, we are husband and wife. If we fight at the head of the bed, we will reconcile at the end. Who wants to reconcile with you? Murong-ing glares at Li Fan fiercely, but looking at Li Fan's appearance, he doesn't seem to mind. Instead, he is still smiling, making Murong-ing want to grind her teeth. Are you letting me out or not? Call me hubby. Li Fan stands up, crosses his arms, and looks at Murong-ing. You too, let this alliance leader out. Murong-ing has no choice but to surrender her gaze to the 2 people at the side. But if Li Fan doesn't say anything, she will not move. Su Jinrong was very embarrassed. He felt that he was unnecessary at this moment. To save or not to save, this is the problem. If he saves, he will offend Li Fan. If he doesn't save, he will offend alliance leader Murong. Damn it, I shouldn't have rushed over at that time. Not only would he fail to claim credit, he would also die. No matter who he offended, the 2 of them were a couple. In the end, it was just like what Li Fan had said, they would fight at the head of the bed and make up at the end. In the end, he was in a terrible situation. Wife, why do you have to make things difficult for them? Li Fan laughed and said, Why do we have to involve others in our matters? Look, you're making things so difficult for them. Murong-ing wanted to kill someone, but the one who made things difficult for them was you, bastard. But looking at Li Fan's innocent look, he would never admit it. When this guy was thick-skinned, even a cannonball couldn't penetrate his skin. If you don't call me husband, I won't let you out. Li Fan said again, but Murong Ing ignored him. It seems our alliance master likes this place very much. Let's head back then. Li Fan waved his hand and prepared to leave with his men. Murong Ing was anxious. She hurriedly took a step forward and subconsciously shouted. Don't go. Who said don't go? Li Fan looked back at him. Husband, don't go. Murong Ying's voice was like a mosquito buzzing. Li Fan immediately turned around and asked. What did you say? I didn't hear you clearly. Don't push your luck. Murong Ying glared at him with her almond-shaped eyes. Only then did Li Fan put away his mischievous smile. Good. Our alliance master has been trapped for so long. This is outrageous. With that, Li Fan walked to the front of the iron cage and stretched out his hands to grab the 2 bars. He exerted force and forcibly bent the 2 railings. Amitba. I finally see the light of day again. Master Yu Su was also released. This old monk was quite emotional. This dungeon is really quiet. However, it's inconvenient for men and women to cultivate. Thank you for your hard work, Master Yu Su. Su Jinrong hurriedly put his palms together and bowed to this Shaolin abbot. Since you've taken advantage of me, now it's time to do me a favor. Murong Ing pulled Li Fan's collar. Otherwise, I won't forgive you. We're already an old married couple. Why are you still so shy? Li Fan pulled away Murong Ying's hand and helped her pat off the dust on her clothes. Look at you. You've been locked up for a few days and you're already haggard. Looking at the deep concern in Li Fan's eyes, Murong Ing actually couldn't get angry. This guy is quite concerned about me. Those damn devil cult, they've really gone too far this time. Su Jinrong said angrily, this time they're actually so bold. Not only did they forcibly occupy Wudong Mountain, they even locked up Alliance Master Murong and Master Yu Su. He cupped his hands toward Murong Ing. Alliance Master Murong, this time we can't indulge them anymore. We must launch an all-out attack on the devil cult. We will ride our horses to the west wind and follow Alliance Master's lead. Su Jinrong hurriedly expressed his loyalty. Behind all of this should be their Alliance Master's authorization. I will arrange this matter. You don't need to remind me. Murong Ing didn't care about Su Jinrong. She took a deep breath and then instructed Li Fan, I've been poisoned by a very special cultivation dissipating powder. Only Song Fuya has the antidote. Li Fan, are you willing to make a trip for me? Song Fuya's character is strange. If I want to directly snatch it from her, even if she dies, she won't hand it over. When Li Fan thought of that woman, he felt a little panicky. If she dies in exchange for a martial arts alliance master with crippled martial arts, she will definitely feel that it's worth it. You've got a plan? After living under the same roof for so long, Murong Ing already understood Li Fan very well. When she heard Li Fan say this, she knew that he already had his own idea. Well, we can't snatch it, but we can steal it. As Li Fan spoke, he turned his head and glanced at her. It's time for you to come down. Everyone was a little surprised. Who was Li Fan talking about? As soon as his voice fell, a figure landed from behind the stone statue. She was wearing convenient night clothes and had a slim figure. When she landed, she let out a string of silver bell-like laughter. Little junior sister? When Su Jinrong saw Flying Cat, a smile appeared on his face. You're here? Are you here to look for me? TSK, I'm not looking for you. Yin Xiaoru rolled her eyes at Su Jinrong, as if she didn't care about this eldest senior brother at all. Little junior sister, long time no see. Don't you miss senior brother? Su Jinrong hurriedly asked. Why would I miss you? You're not my biological brother. Yin Xiaoru said as she walked to Li Fan's side and enthusiastically held his arm. Sticking to his side, she said, Little sweetheart, how did you find me? Li Fan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. This girl was teasing him again. Sure enough, Murong Ing frowned and snorted. Li Fan, I'm suffering here, but you're enjoying yourself. You're fooling around outside, aren't you? What are you talking about? The two of us are purely colleagues. Li Fan hurriedly pushed Yin Xiaoru away and then glared at her. You're causing trouble for me the moment you come. With your movement technique, you're still a few years away from being able to hide from me. I didn't hide it carefully. Otherwise, none of you would be able to find me. Yin Xiaoru was very unwilling. Su Zhenrong wiped his cold sweat at the side, thinking in his heart, what the hell is going on? Chapter 471. Are you Yin Xiaoru? Murong Ying pulled Li Fan to the side. She was more than 1.7 meters tall, a head taller than Yin Xiaoru, so she looked down at Yin Xiaoru. You're the daughter of Golden Eagle Castle. Why are you dressed like a thief? Hey, although you're the chief of Wulin, it's not up to you to tell me what to wear, right? Yin Xiaoru rolled her eyes. I can wear whatever I want. What a willful girl. Didn't Yin Wuchao discipline you? You're so annoying. Yin Xiaoru pouted and rolled her eyes at Murong Ying. You're just the chief of Wulin. Why do you like to meddle in other people's business? I don't care. I just think you're annoying. The two women began to bicker. Li Fan hurriedly advised, You two, stop arguing. My wife, we still have to ask her for help with this matter. How can a willful girl be of any help? Murong Ying crossed her arms and said arrogantly. Li Fan was very helpless. Damn it, you're willful enough. Her lightness skill is good. I need her to help you steal the antidote. Li Fan said, Song Fuya is a very special woman. She has poison to protect her body. Ordinary people can't get close to her. Besides me and you, only the person with the poison prevention bead can get close to her. As he spoke, he took out a small black bead, which surprised Su Zhenrong. Poison prevention bead? Young Hiroli, why do you have this? Amit Ba. Master Yu Su also put his hands together and sighed. The last time I saw it, I was still a child. You don't need to care about its origin. It's borrowed anyway. Li Fan said and handed the bead to Yin Xiaoru. Take it. You'll need it later. Yin Xiaoru's eyes lit up. She dodged the bead and asked, How do I use it? Just put it under your tongue. Li Fan reminded Yin Xiaoru, I borrowed this thing, you must return it to me. I know, you are really stingy. Yin Xiaoru angrily rolled her eyes at Li Fan and unwillingly stuffed the bead into her pocket. What are you going to do if you give her the poison prevention pearl? Yu Shi, who had been silent all this time, finally couldn't help but speak up. She was worried about Li Fan's safety. It's fine. Actually, I don't care about this bit of poisonous gas. Li Fan's control of true qi was unique, so he did not care about Song Fuya's poisonous fog. Even if she knows how to steal, how can she steal, and where can she steal? Murong Ying asked. Leave it to me. Li Fan already had an idea. I want Song Fuya to take out the antidote herself. How is that possible? Don't tell me you know hypnosis? Of course not, but I have my own brilliant plan. Li Fan said, straightening his clothes. Heartless Saber, please help me find the whereabouts of Song Fuya and the others. Yu Shi nodded. They should not have gone far. The black and white impermanents are seriously injured. I think they should stay in a nearby town for a night. Wait for me on the mountain, I will be back soon. Yu Shi said, her feet bounced, her whole body stepped on the mountain wind, like a black shadow, disappeared in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. I didn't expect this heartless Saber's qinggong to be so beautiful. After saying that, Murong Ying glanced at Li Fan. I remember that she was still chasing you before. How come it seems that after I was locked up for a few days, your relationship with many women inexplicably improved a lot? Ahem, what are you talking about? Li Fan patted his chest. This can only mean that my charm is great. Charming your sister. I hope it can be solved smoothly. In any case, not having martial arts was a bit uncomfortable for Murong Ying. All she could do now was to wait. And just as Yu Shi expected, at this moment, Song Fuya was staying in a 4-star hotel in the town at the foot of Mount Wung. In this place, a 4-star hotel was already the most high-end hotel. Song Fuya took a shower, dried her hair, and then looked at the old sofa in the bedroom with some dissatisfaction. I really don't want to come to this kind of place a second time. Song Fuya sighed. This time's mission was really very not smooth. Not only did she fail to defend Mount Wudong, even the black and white impermanents were killed. If the sect leader knew about this, how could she have the face to be the left protector? Song Fuya sat there, thinking about how she should apologize. At this moment, a breeze blew through the window. Song Fuya immediately frowned and looked at the window vigilantly. It was winter now. She did not have the habit of opening the window in cold weather. Before Song Fuya could check, the door was knocked. "Who is it?" Song Fuya questioned. "It's your room service, Mississippi," a familiar voice sounded outside the door, and Song Fuya immediately reached out and grabbed a bathrobe from the bathroom. She then wrapped it around her body. "Honorable Miss, may I come in?" Song Fuya opened the door, and indeed, Li Fan was standing outside, looking at her with a smile. "What a surprise," Song Fuya said sarcastically. "I didn't expect the little tyrant to think so highly of me that he chased me all the way here from Mount Wudong. Because I like beautiful women, I naturally have to chase after beautiful women." Looking at Song Fuya, who had revealed her true appearance, Li Wei felt that she was rather good-looking. Li Wei had chosen a beautiful woman to be his left protector. "Chasing after me won't do you any good." Song Fuya looked at Li Fan arrogantly. "You're much more articulate this time. Did you spit out the poison prevention pearl?" "You know about the poison prevention pearl?" Li Fan pretended to be surprised, but Song Fuya couldn't help but mock him. "Do you think I don't know? The poison prevention pearl is the only thing that can perfectly avoid my poison." Song Fuya's face was full of confidence. "I've studied poison all my life, and you can't imagine how amazing it is. Do you think you can come in unscathed and take the antidote from me?" Song Fuya mocked Li Fan. "Arrogant kid, you've already been poisoned by my technique dissipation powder the moment you entered this room. Soon, you'll become my trophy." She seemed to be a little worried. "I wonder if the sect master will be satisfied with you. He originally wanted Alliance Master Murong. However, you can't stop the Emperor of Pugilistic World. He's going to rise." "I think you're crazy." Li Fan rolled his eyes. "You've been brainwashed too much. You're too stupid to understand true holiness and greatness." Song Fuya mocked Li Fan. "You don't have an ideal man. Now, you can only kneel before me powerlessly." Chapter 472. Li Fan's face turned pale. He took 2 steps back and fearfully looked at Song Fuya. "I'm still young. I don't want to die." Li Fan looked at Song Fuya, who picked up a fruit knife and hurriedly said, "I'm willing to join solipsism. You? Where's your loyalty?" Song Fuya looked at Li Fan with ridicule. "What a joke. You'd better go seek refuge with King Yenluo." "How boring. I can't fool you." Li Fan sat down on the short counter and then looked at Song Fuya with a smile. "Do you think I'm an idiot? Why would I throw away the poison prevention pearl before seeing you? You probably don't believe me, but I have a godly thief by my side. Her name is Flying Cat." Song Fuya was shocked. She hurriedly turned her head and looked at the row of bottles hanging on the wall. But she immediately frowned. She knew something was wrong. "Even if you know the antidote, you won't be able to get it," Song Fuya said as she turned around and threw the fruit knife at Li Fan. But Li Fan only stretched out his hand and grabbed the fruit knife. "Do you need me to peel the fruit for you, miss?" "Impossible. How can you still use your internal force?" Song Fuya looked at Li Fan in shock. He had obviously inhaled her poisonous fog, but he was still fine? He obviously didn't use the poison prevention pearl. Song Fuya couldn't figure it out, and only Li Fan himself knew about his ability. He used his true qi to cover his entire body, even his nostrils. If he didn't have a strong internal force, he would have suffocated to death. Song Fuya rubbed her eyes in disbelief. But she quickly reacted. Now was not the time to make a move. She was a strategic weapon. If she met someone who wasn't afraid of her poisonous fog, then her fighting strength would be too low. Song Fuya only had one thought in her mind, and that was to escape. She didn't even have time to wear her clothes. She wanted to take back her antidote and jump out with a towel wrapped around her. However, Li Fan suddenly used the white crane nod and instantly hit Song Fuya's acupuncture point. Song Fuya's body stiffened, and a woman dressed in black appeared out of nowhere. She dodged the bag of elixirs and jumped out of the window. "Where do you think you're going?" Song Fuya was shocked. She wanted to chase after him, but her blood was still sealed, so she couldn't move. "Sorry, I don't want you to leave." Li Fan's voice came from behind Song Fuya. Song Fuya suddenly bit the tip of her tongue, turned her head with difficulty, and spat out a mouthful of blood at Li Fan. Li Fan instinctively felt that something was wrong. He immediately shifted his feet and dodged to the side. With a puff, the blood arrow hit the wall behind him. A corroded black hole was left on the wall. It was a ghastly sight. Li Fan swallowed his saliva and thought to himself, "What the fuck is going on?" It seemed that this woman not only knew how to play with poison, even the blood in her body was poisonous. This was really fucked up. His vital energy couldn't completely resist this kind of liquid poison. "Are you afraid?" Song Fuya licked her blood-red lips and looked at Li Fan. She smiled sweetly. "Don't worry, my poison comes quickly. I guarantee you won't feel any pain and you'll die peacefully." "Then I really have to thank you." Li Fan activated the vital energy in his body. "Li Fan, even if I have to use up all my blood, I will take your life." After being deceived by Li Fan, Song Fuya flew into a rage out of humiliation. She relied on the power of her blood to forcefully break through the seal of her blood. She turned around and spat out mouthfuls of blood arrows at Li Fan. Li Fan's feet kept shifting, and his body left a black afterimage. It was as if he was leaving some kind of black particles in the air. Li Fan's movements became lighter and lighter. The movements of the spirit monkey and immortal deer were firmly engraved in his bones and became a physical memory. Although Song Fuya's blood arrows were fast and vicious, it was not difficult for Li Fan to deal with. Song Fuya was getting more and more anxious. Her blood was not unlimited, but her poison had no effect on Li Fan. Damn it, this man, is he really immune to all poisons? In this world, other than the 4 black guards of the embroidered uniform guards, how could there be someone else with such an ability? Or did he also eat the clear heart pill? Impossible. Song Fuya was not stupid. The clear heart pill definitely did not exist. The reason why she left Mount Wudong was because Li Fan defeated the black and white impermanence in a second and shocked her. A man who had the poison prevention pearl and could defeat the black and white impermanence in a second was definitely not weak. Although she had brought 200 undead soldiers, they were the sect leader's most precious assets. They should be used in better places, such as the Holy War. Song Fuya was very smart and also very cautious. She chose to retreat, not because she was scared away by the sword-leaning smile, but because she was scared away by Li Fan alone. This man was getting more and more out of her expectations. "Enough!" Li Fan suddenly roared. He took a step forward and slapped himself in the air. Bear King Seal. Song Fuya felt as if her abdomen was hit by a car. She flew out and hit the window behind her, shattering the glass. Her body jumped down from the building. Song Fuya covered her lower abdomen with one hand and grabbed a towel with the other. Her body somersaulted in the air, and then she stepped on the building wall with both legs. Her whole body flew out and landed on a car below. Bang! The roof of the car was dented, but Song Fuya's feet were unharmed. She jumped and landed on a few cars and disappeared into the night in the blink of an eye. She ran quite fast. Li Fan stood on the window of the hotel and looked down. Song Fuya had already used the excuse of falling off the building to escape. "I got it." Yin Xiaoru hung upside down from the window and suddenly appeared in front of Li Fan with a small bag filled with various medicines. "How are you going to reward me?" Yin Xiaoru waved the bag and asked. "Don't mess around. It's filled with poison. It's not a joke if you spill it." Li Fan hurriedly said. "I know. Look at how worried you are." Yin Xiaoru passed the bag to Li Fan. "Keep it well. Don't blame me if something goes wrong." "I know. Return the poison prevention bead." Li Fan extended his hand. Yin Xiaoru reluctantly spat out the poison prevention bead and stuffed it into Li Fan's palm. "But why is this bead so salty? Maybe it's because I sucked it before I gave it to you." Yin Xiaoru's face changed. You actually kissed me indirectly." Chapter 473. You were the one who kissed me indirectly, okay? Li Fan raised his protest very shamelessly, which made Yin Xiaoru very dissatisfied. "You bastard! You're shameless, you're despicable." Yin Xiaoru was so angry that she wanted to kill someone, but Li Fan laughed. Okay, you're a girl, how can you be so stingy? Hey, it's because you're a girl that you're stingy, okay? Yes, I was wrong. I shouldn't have kissed you indirectly. I'll kiss you directly next time. Bastard, I don't care about you. I'm leaving. Yin Xiaoru was so angry that she ran away. Like a pendulum, she swung on the window and then quickly left the hotel. Li Fan said that this girl's qigong seemed to be getting better and better. He checked the medicine bag and found that there were all kinds of medicines in it, but he couldn't tell what they were. It was better to take it back to Mount Wudong. There should be people there who knew something about medicine. Li Fan took the medicine bag and returned to Mount Wudong. At this time, Mount Wudong had returned to its former tranquility, but there was something different. Wu Jizi finally had a chance to be buried. He was lying in a coffin in front of the martial hall, looking peaceful as if he had really ascended to heaven. The bell of the martial hall kept ringing, as if to bid farewell to the sect leader. Li Fan saw Lu Yishan, the Wu-Tang disciple who didn't like Yan Kai. At this moment, he seemed to have matured a lot, standing in the crowd and organizing the funeral of the sect leader with other disciples. And Master Yu Su sat on the side, silently using a unique Buddhist method to expiate the soul of his old friend. Murong Ing and Yu Shi were looking through the medicine bag. After searching for a day, Yu Shi confirmed the result. There is no antidote here. We were cheated. Huh? Li Fan was a little surprised. Cheated? How is that possible? I should have expected it. Murong Ing was a little annoyed. I can't believe that Song Fuya's nonsense. She said, the people of Medicine King Valley and Yin Gate spend their lives studying poisons and have no time to make antidotes. Now that I think about it, she was just lying to us. How can you be sure that there's really no antidote here? Li Fan was still hoping for a fluke. I've done some research on pharmacology, but I really don't have any. Yu Shi's words annoyed Li Fan. He clenched his fists. Song Fuya of the devil cult. How dare she trick me? I will settle this score with her sooner or later. Goddamn devil cult. Su Zhenrong was also standing at the side. When he heard this, his face was filled with righteous indignation. If I catch them, I won't let them off. Alliance leader Murong, since that's the case, I'll take my leave first. This guy probably saw that Murong Ing had no value to him, so he wanted to get away as soon as possible. Devil cult, that bunch of dogs. Li Fan clenched his teeth. They and I are irreconcilable enemies. The devil sect will always be the devil sect. Their actions will always be like this. Murong Ing came to a conclusion. It seems that my internal energy might not be able to recover. Amitba, you don't have to be so ruthless. Master Yu Su's words suddenly made Su Zhenrong stop. Could it be that Murong Ing could still be saved? In this world, there is another place that can cure the poison of Yin men. Master Yu Su is talking about Medicine King Valley? Wrongest. Exactly. Fuck, ask them for the antidote? Li Fan was a little infuriated at that time. Those people from Medicine King Valley were all crazy. Anyway, those he met were not good people. People from Medicine King Valley are all unreasonable, unreliable. At this moment, this is the only way. Murong Ing sighed softly. I only hope that they can give me some face as the leader of Wulin. Li Fan, accompany me, how about it? Okay, I will accompany you. Li Fan was also angry. Their people poison my wife. If they don't give an explanation to the young master, I will destroy their Medicine King Valley. Li Fan, this little overlord, was also angry. Since that's the case, Wudong Mountain still has 30 experts who can ride on horseback to the west wind. Su Zhenrong hurriedly came forward to ask, Leader Murong, can you bring them together to ask for the antidote? I am going to ask for the antidote, not to fight. Why do you need to make such a big scene? Murong Ing did not hesitate and flatly refused. In that case, this Su is willing to accompany Leader Murong. You are not my husband, why do I need you to accompany me? Murong Ing did not give him any face. She ignored the embarrassed Su Zhenrong and whistled. The gold and silver swordsman landed from the roof next to them. Li Fan immediately became vigilant. Don't worry, they are my guards. Murong-ing hurriedly explained. Although the gold and silver swordsmen had also been poisoned, their physiques were different. After being poisoned, the poison would disappear in 3 days. Murong-ing had asked them to hide nearby so that they could wait for a chance to rescue her. You also have 2 handsome guards. Not bad. Li Fan was slightly jealous. Why didn't you assign a female guard for me? I assigned one for you. Murong-ing said openly, but she kind of hates you. After working for 2 days, she quit. She began to shift the blame. Look, it's all your fault. It's too annoying. You can't blame me. Fuck, I am infinitely charming. Li Fan pursed his lips. At that moment, Master Yu Su seemed to have finished chanting. He put his palms together and said, Amitba. Alliance Master Murong, this old monk's body is already old. It's not suitable for a long journey, so I can't accompany you. However, I have already informed a monk in the sect to go to the Medicine King Valley to help Alliance Master Murong. How did you inform him? Li Fan said that there seemed to be no other monks on the Wudong Mountain apart from Yu Su. I sent him a text message. Master Yu Su hurriedly stuffed his mobile phone into his sleeve. This monk is rather intelligent, so he is unique in the temple and has a special dharma name, Bodhi. In that case, I shall accept your request. Murong-ing found it hard to turn him down, so she agreed. I'll go and check on Li Wei's whereabouts. Yu Shi also bade farewell. Although she liked to spend time with Li Fan, it was limited to being alone. Now that there were 3 more people, it would be meaningless. Okay, let's say goodbye here. Without further ado, Li Fan did not want his wife to suffer too much. In that case, I won't accompany you any longer. Su Zhenrong could not be thick-skinned. I'll go back and report this matter to Alliance Master Long. He has some ties with the Valley Master of the Medicine King Valley, so he might be able to help. Hence, Murong-ing had no choice but to cup her hands and watch Su Zhenrong leave. She wondered if the request for medicine this time would be successful. Chapter 474. Regardless of whether Li Fan was willing or not, they arrived at a small town near Medicine King Valley 3 days later. The monk that Master Yu Su mentioned is waiting for us here. Murong-ing, accompanied by Li Fan and the golden and silver swordsman, sat in a black Toyota Alpha. Li Fan had to admit that this Murong villa was indeed a big business. Even this place had the property of Murong's family. Wife, what does Murong's family do? Why are there people from your family everywhere? Li Fan couldn't help but ask out of curiosity. Real estate. With just 3 simple words, Li Fan understood. Fuck, so they're in real estate. No wonder they can spread out such a large industrial chain. Li Fan was already a little impressed. He seemed to have found an amazing wife. Well, her identity as the leader of the martial arts world was even more amazing. He should be living in this hotel. The car stopped in front of a small hotel, and Murong-ing glanced at the name of the hotel. Nightlife. This hotel was also a bunker. How could they name it like that? It would be better to call it Cannon Room. I'm also speechless. A monk lives in this kind of place, Li Fan said. Wait in the car, I'll go take a look. He opened the door, jumped out of the car, and walked into the small hotel. In any case, this was better than the hotel that Li Fan saw in Golden Eagle Castle. At least it was considered formal. However, there were only guest rooms on the first floor of the hotel, but a row of red lights was lit on the second floor, making people have all kinds of messy thoughts. The boss was a middle-aged man. He was sleepy at first, but when he saw Li Fan, he was refreshed. Brother, do you want to play? The boss asked directly. No, I'm looking for someone. Li Fan asked, do you have a monk here? Brother, this is a formal hotel. How can I divulge the information of my guests? The boss said with a smile, rubbing his fingers at the same time. The proper hotel? Li Fan wanted to laugh. Which proper hotel would have a sex room upstairs? He slammed his palm on the counter, leaving a 1 centimeter deep palm print. Boss, do I need to ask again? Brother, I was just being polite. The boss looked at the clear palm print and almost peed his pants. I don't know about the monk, but there's a baldy living on the 3rd floor. Which room? 303. Li Fan turned around and went upstairs, leaving the shivering bosses behind. It wasn't that Li Fan couldn't pay him. This kind of person was easy to get rid of. A few $100 was enough to get him to say everything. However, Li Fan was unwilling to be threatened by him. The name, Little Tyrant, was not for nothing. Li Fan went straight to the third floor. There were two scantily clad women standing on the stairs of the second floor. They were smoking and flirting with Li Fan. However, what kind of person was Li Fan? Not only did he have a beautiful woman at home, he also had many supreme beauties outside. This kind of trash he didn't fancy. Li Fan walked to the third floor and felt sweat dripping down. The entire corridor of the third floor was filled with the excited shouts of a woman. The shouts were incessant, accompanied by a clapping sound that echoed in the corridor. Li Fan wiped his cold sweat. Who couldn't hold back and started doing it in broad daylight. Li Fan tried his best to ignore the concerto of love. He found room 303. The concerto was like a tsunami, coming out from inside. Fuck. Li Fan wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. Could it be that he was mistaken? He looked carefully. It was indeed 303 written on the door. Li Fan said that even if his education level was low, he couldn't be mistaken with the Arabic numerals. What exactly went wrong? Could it be that the boss was fooling him? In any case, Li Fan decided to give it a try first. He walked in front of the door and knocked on it. However, the sounds of pleasure and collision were still incessant. Li Fan was very embarrassed. Had the two of them reached the climax and reached a state where they had forgotten themselves? Li Fan was slightly speechless. But it was absolutely impossible for him to wait here. He was the little tyrant. Li Fan directly filled his voice with true energy and shouted, "Beauty! Where the hell are you?" Although Li Fan's voice was loud, it was wrapped in true energy, so it only transmitted to the room 303 in front of him. After all, Li Fan didn't want to alarm other guests to avoid unnecessary trouble. Li Fan's shout was effective. The sound of the concerto in the room came to an abrupt stop. A deep and powerful voice came from inside, "Wait a minute, I'm wearing underwear." Li Fan's forehead was full of black lines. It seemed that it was indeed the martial monk that Master Yusu mentioned. "Beauty, this guy is actually prostituting?" Li Fan didn't know what to say. After a while, the door of room 303 was pushed open. A woman with wet hair pushed open the door and walked out. She looked at Li Fan indifferently and then used her hand to tidy up her chest that was squeezed out by the clothes. She blew a kiss at the door and said coquettishly, "Little monk, you made me feel so good. I'll give you free of charge." After that, she also winked at Li Fan. "Little brother, do you want one? The second person is half price." The woman winked at Li Fan, causing Li Fan to have a terrible headache. Seeing that Li Fan wasn't interested, the woman didn't put in much effort. She chuckled, turned around and walked away while twisting her butt. Amitba, a monk wearing a suit and leather shoes, came out with a red tie. He put his palms together and said politely to Li Fan, "Excuse me, are you Li Fan, benefactor Li?" "That's me." "Are you Beauty?" "Amitba." "That's me." The monk wearing a black suit nodded. He had a delicate appearance and was about 30 years old. However, he was actually a lecher. "You came out to prostitute?" Li Fan couldn't help but ask. "Amitba, benefactor Li is too serious." Beauty said, "Ever since I came down the mountain, I found that there are too many desires in this world. The world doesn't wake up, so I came to enlighten them. Just now, I was just doing my best to enlighten those female benefactors." "Fuck your grandpa, you enlighten them so well that they don't even want money anymore." Li Fan wanted to curse. Amitba. It was this little monk who awakened their root of wisdom. They had an epiphany. "Epiphany your grandpa. Go downstairs." Li Fan grabbed Beauty's collar, pushed him into the house, and threw him out of the window. This Bodhi descended from the sky, but he put his palms together and stomped his feet on the ground, leaving 2 footprints on the ground. Li Fan floated down as well. Subhuti grumbled in a rather displeased manner. "Benefactor Li, you're so impatient." Chapter 475. Don't you know Qinggong? Li Fan couldn't help but mock Subhuti as he watched him trample on the ground. Almsgiver Li is right. This humble monk is proficient in Shaolin's 72 ultimate arts, but I don't know Qigong. Subhuti smiled shyly. Damn, what a weird flirty monk. Li Fan looked at Subhuti again. I really don't understand. Why would Master Yu Su recommend you, Amitba? Because this humble monk can purify the sins of the world. When Li Fan opened the car door, Subhuti's eyes lit up when he saw Murong-ing. Amitba, Lady Almsgiver, this humble monk can see that you are filled with sins. Why don't I help you purify them? Fuck you. Li Fan used the Ape King cannon and sent Subhuti flying more than 10 meters away. Subhuti smashed into a building, creating a human-shaped hole in the staircase. This is young master's wife. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll pull out your penis, you perverted monk. Li Fan said angrily. Amitba, so it's Alliance Master Morong. This humble monk was wrong. Please forgive me, Almsgiver Li. Subhuti put his palms together at Li Fan. My sins, my sins. If you flirt again, be careful of your lower body. Li Fan reminded Subhuti. Subhuti nodded. Don't worry, Almsgiver Li. This humble monk was born to purify the world. However, this humble monk has a principle, and that is not to purify other people's wives. Li Fan was speechless for a long time. At this time, Murong-ing had already walked down from Alpha and saw the monk in the suit pulling himself out of the hole. What kind of monk is this? He's even wearing a suit. Murong-ing couldn't help but frown. Amitba, Subhuti bowed to Murong-ing. This must be Alliance Master Morong. This humble monk is Subhuti. Are you the person that Master Yu Su mentioned? Murong-ing probably felt that it didn't look like it. Not to mention her, even Li Fan felt that it didn't look like it. This fellow was clearly a perverted monk. He didn't look like a proper monk at all. Li Fan rolled his eyes. I've already received a message from the sect master. He wants me to help Alliance Master Morong with all my might. Subhuti clasped his hands together, seeming completely out of place with his suit. Even if we have to climb mountains of blades or swim through seas of fire, League Lord Morong, will do as you say. Monk, you don't even know Qigong. What abilities do you have? Li Fan had said that this trip to the Valley of Medicine Masters to seek medicine would be fraught with danger. Bringing along a monk without any abilities would only be a burden to him and Murong-ing. Don't worry, Almsgiver Li. I do have some skills. Subhuti's voice boomed out like a great bell. I'm just using the 72 ultimate techniques of Shaolin Temple to protect myself. Subhuti laughed. If you don't have some true abilities, how can you enlighten the world? Then what ultimate technique is it? The Buddha said, I can't say it, I can't say it. This is the ultimate technique of Shaolin Temple. The sect master has repeatedly warned me not to tell outsiders. Please forgive me, Almsgiver Li. This is one of my principles. Fuck. Murong-ing frowned and reprimanded her in her delicate voice. Subhuti, tell me the truth. Amitba, it's invincible golden body. Subhuti answered Murong-ing honestly, almost angering Li Fan to death. Damn, this monk was still a pervert. Whenever a woman asked him something, his principles would go to hell. Invincible golden body? Murong-ing was somewhat surprised. This is a divine technique that can only be comprehended when one has trained Golden Bell Shield to the extreme. I didn't expect you to have learned it. Golden Bell Shield was also one of the ultimate techniques of Shaolin Temple. Invincible golden body was only a legendary realm. But after hundreds of years, it seemed that not a single monk had managed to master it. How the fuck did you manage to master it? Li Fan was puzzled. Once, when I was trying to enlighten a female almsgiver, I inadvertently comprehended it. Subhuti's words almost angered Li Fan to death. Fuck, he was wondering what the reason was, but it turned out that he had only managed to master it by fooling around. So the reason why a bunch of monks couldn't master it was because they were too scrupulously abiding by the rules. This was too ridiculous. It said that those who master the invincible golden body will not rot even after death. I wonder if that's true. Murong-ing sized up this flowery monk with interest. Li Fan grew wary. I don't know either. After all, it's just a stinky body. Sometimes, Subhudi's words were filled with mystery. It was hard to tell if he was a flowery monk or a living Buddha like Ji Gong. In short, this person gave Li Fan a headache. Alright, Subhudi has been picked up. Let's head to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Murong-ing waved her hand, signaling for Li Fan and Subhudi to get into the car. Let this flowery monk sit in the back. Li Fan had quite a strong opinion of Subhudi. This flowery monk, who was so daring in his lust, should be kept away from his wife. However, since when did he care so much about Murong-ing? It seemed like he was easily jealous of her. Yes, no matter what, she was his fiancée. Etiquette, this was all etiquette. Alright, you have the final say. Murong-ing actually followed Li Fan's wishes this time, which surprised Li Fan. Amitba, thank you, Alliance Master Murong. The flowery monk, who did not know Qinggong, had no other choice but to take the car. Li Fan followed Murong-ing into the Alpha. Murong-ing gently crossed her legs, looking at Li Fan with a faint smile. What's wrong with your face, is it twitching? Li Fan reminded, this is an illness, you have to treat it. Just now, were you jealous? Murong-ing wasn't angry. Instead, she asked. What a joke, why would I be jealous? Li Fan grinned, who am I? People call me the little overlord. You are my woman, only a woman will be jealous of a man. I didn't expect you to be a straight man. Not to that extent. In any case, I will not be jealous because of you. Li Fan and Murong-ing were in a state of unwillingness to admit defeat. You are definitely mistaken. You, this person, are really boring. Murong-ing ridiculed Li Fan. Obviously you are jealous. Will it kill you to admit it? You still have the nerve to say that. Li Fan curled his lips. Aren't you the same? Although I am a woman, I am indomitable. Murong-ing said openly, what's the matter, I dare not admit it. Then let me ask you, do you like me? When Li Fan asked, Murong-ing was stunned for a moment. Answer me, Alliance Master Murong of the heaven and earth. Li Fan asked. Murong-ing turned her head to the side and looked out the window. In front of Medicine King Valley, there is a big illusion array, you must be careful. Hey, you haven't answered my question yet. The big illusion array will mislead your senses. Murong-ing continued, it is very scary, you must listen to my instructions. Humph, you are also a coward. Chapter 476. Murong-ing simply ignored Li Fan. No matter how Li Fan provoked and teased her along the way, Murong-ing just closed her eyes and rested, not saying a word. The two cars drove all the way to a mountain. There was a winding road built on the mountain, but it only reached halfway up the mountain and stopped at a small town. The small town was not big, and a stone tablet that was not very eye-catching was beside it. On it were the words, Medicine King Village, written in seal script. Legend had it that a genius apothecary had once appeared in the Medicine King Village. His miraculous hands could bring the dead back to life. At the same time, he was also proficient in the Book of Poison. At that time, the imperial court sent people to capture him and bring him to the capital to serve the imperial family. In the end, the moment he made his move, all the soldiers of the imperial court collapsed to the ground. They were afflicted with diseases, and no one was able to approach him. In the end, the imperial court had no choice but to give up on the idea of bringing him to the capital. Then this person took root here and established the Valley of Medicine Masters. Unfortunately, no one else was able to master both the Book of Poison and the pharmacology after him. Medicine King Valley was also divided into two gates, the Yin Gate and the Yang Gate. The two gates did not interfere with each other. However, the Medicine King Valley was still a land of peach blossoms, and outsiders were forbidden from entering. Their only contact with the outside world was through this Medicine King Village. The townspeople of Medicine King Village made a living by growing medicinal herbs. Their medicinal herbs were of good quality and there was no need to worry about sales. Therefore, the townspeople lived a relatively comfortable life. However, other than pharmacists, they did not welcome outsiders. The car stopped outside the town gate because the gate was blocked by a barricade. Two townspeople in uniform who looked like policemen were sitting in the guard tower next to them. Which company? A policeman with a cigarette in his mouth asked the man sitting in the passenger seat. One of Murong Ying's local economic advisors was sitting in the passenger seat of Alpha. He immediately took out a business card and handed it to the policeman. Brilliant Pharmaceuticals? This was the first time he had heard of it. Where's the pass? The policeman spread out his right hand. The economic advisor was also a smart person, so he immediately said, "This is our company's first time here. We heard that there are medicinal herbs here, so we came to inspect. Don't you need your village chief to issue the pass? How can I issue it if I don't see him? You can't enter without a pass." The policeman waved his hand and directly rejected them. "Boss, what should we do? They won't let us in." The economic advisor turned to Murong Ying and said, "Don't invest more than 10 billion here. I'll help you find another place to produce medicine to set up a pharmaceutical company. Hey, even if you guys invest 100 billion, it won't work." The policeman sneers. "The rules of our Medicine King village are dead. Without a pass, no one is allowed to enter. What should we do?" The economic advisor was at his wits' end this time. Li Fan opened the door and got out of the car. "Where does your village chief live?" Li Fan walked up enthusiastically and asked. "You can't get in no matter where he lives." The policeman rolled his eyes. It seemed like he didn't even want to point the way. But at this moment, Li Fan suddenly moved behind him with a black shadow and knocked on his neck. The policeman immediately fainted. The other policeman in the watchtower directly reached for the pistol on his waist. But Li Fan reached out and grabbed his head. With a twist of his tiger claw, the policeman directly fainted. "Amit ba. Sinful, sinful." Pewdie clasped his hands together. "This little monk is a monk. I can't bear to see this bloody scene." "Damn, you wine and meat monk, why are you pretending to be stupid?" Li Fan returned to the car, tidied up his clothes and said, "Let's go and find the way to Medicine King Valley. Let's get off the car." "Walk." Murong Ying reminded them, "This village is not big. 2 cars is too conspicuous." "Okay, let's walk." Li Fan thought that the 5 of them wouldn't attract too much attention. But the gold and silver swordsman with 2 swords on his back had a black face as if someone owed him millions. Not to mention that flowery monk Pewdie. Black suit, bald head, with a code on the back of his head, he looked like a killer 47. Plus, a beauty like Murong Ying seemed to be more high-profile than driving. Forget it. Since they were already here, they might as well make the best of it. They have not seen Medicine King Valley yet. How could they be stumped by a small Medicine King village? The few of them got off the car and walked into Medicine King Village. The village was indeed not big. The inside of the village exuded a strong medicinal fragrance. Even though it was freezing cold outside, Medicine King Valley was originally located in a place suitable for all 4 seasons. At this moment, the sun was shining brightly and everything was green. Amit ba. Living in this place, one can definitely live a long life. Pewdie seemed to like the environment here. Li Fan reminded him. "Master Pewdie, you are a monk. Is longevity really that important?" Li Fan glanced sideways at him, while Sub-Hoodie clasped his hands together and gave a very reasonable explanation. This little monk came to the mortal world to enlighten the people. To be able to live for 2 more years and enlighten more people is better than this little monk transcending early. As the saying goes, if I don't go to hell, who will? Damn. This was the first time Li Fan saw a person who talked nonsense with a straight face. He and Yen Kai could make a pair. One was pretentious, the other was a tiger in a tiger's skin. The entrance to Medicine King Valley is a bewitching array. Murong Ying stood in the village and looked around. "Look, where do you think it looks like the entrance to Medicine King Valley? Isn't that simple?" Li Fan laughed. "Just grab someone and ask. We walked for a long time and didn't see a single person." "It's okay. They are coming," Li Fan said and looked back. There were 7 or 8 villagers, carrying hoes and shovels in their hands. They walked over aggressively. "Who dares to cause trouble in the village? Arrest them." These villagers were very angry. The people of Medicine King Village were very xenophobic. Everyone, please don't be angry. Murong-ing cupped her hands at them. I am Murong-ing, the leader of Wuling. I came to Medicine King Valley to pay a visit. Bah, you woman. You look pretty but your words are so unreliable. Ridiculous. Even if the leader came, without a pass, he can't enter our village. These villagers had the same opinion. They didn't care what Murong-ing said. If they couldn't enter, they wouldn't let them in. Do you want me to help you deal with them? Li Fan asked. No need, gold and silver swordsman. With Murong-ing's order, the gold and silver swordsman immediately stretched out his finger. The sword on his back was unsheathed and jumped into the air. Just don't take their lives, Murong-ing said. The two of them understood and used their true chi to control their swords and attacked the villagers. The two swords only used the hilt to knock on the villagers' temples. It was neither light nor heavy and directly knocked them out. Chapter 477. The gold and silver swordsman's movements were clean and efficient. Soon, these villagers were knocked unconscious, leaving only one person, who was captured by the gold swordsman and thrown in front of Murong-ing. That villager's face was filled with fear. He tightly grasped the shovel in his hand and looked at Murong-ing. I have no intention of harming your lives. Murong-ing explained in a friendly manner, as long as you tell me where the Medicine King Valley is, it will be fine. That villager's face suddenly changed. The shovel in his hand aimed at Murong-ing's beautiful face and fiercely slammed down. Murong-ing did not move. She only sighed. And flowery monk Pewdie was standing in front of her. He used his forehead to block the shovel. Dang! Bam! The shovel slammed into his head. The wooden pole immediately broke. The shovel head flew out and smashed to the side. And Pewdie stood there with his hands clasped together like an old monk in meditation. He was completely fine. This guy. His body is almost made of iron. Li Fan could not help but think. Monster. The villager was frightened. Obviously, he had never seen a guy who was invulnerable. Benefactor, may I ask where the Medicine King Valley is? Pewdie's face was kind. Li Fan felt that this guy was asking, Benefactor, where do you go to the Western Paradise? In terms of temper, this guy was definitely comparable to Tang Seng. It was just that his degree of lust was something that Tang Seng could not catch up to. If Benefactor is unhappy, you can hit this little monk again. Pewdie continued, when Benefactor is happy, you can tell this little monk. This little monk will wait for you. That villager was speechless. He suddenly pulled out a small dagger from his bosom and fiercely stabbed Pewdie's stomach. Dang! This dagger stabbed Pewdie's stomach. Pewdie was fine, but the dagger was bent. The villager felt like peeing in his pants. Pewdie continued to ask patiently, Benefactor, are you feeling better? Get out of my way. Li Fan pushed Subhoodie away. It would be a miracle if this bastard could get anything out of him. Li Fan picked up the villager. His fiancée had been poisoned, but this bunch of people were still busy being xenophobic. Right now, he really couldn't be polite. You don't want to talk? Looks like it's useless even if you keep your tongue. Li Fan pinched the villager's chin and pulled out his tongue. I'll help you throw him away. The villagers were both shocked and in pain. They hurriedly let out strange cries. Amitba. This is too cruel. Subhoodie couldn't bear to do this. He closed his eyes. Li Fan, give him a chance. Murong-ing patted Li Fan's shoulder and began to sing a duet with him. If he doesn't talk, it won't be too late for you to pull out his tongue. All right. Li Fan loosened his grip, and the villager turned pale with fright. He quickly pointed to a small forest in the distance. After crossing that forest, we'll be there. You've saved your life. Li Fan continued to hold the villager, for now. The five of them brought the villager to the vicinity of the small forest. In this small forest, there was a winding path that led to an unknown place. Heroes, from here, walk forward for 500 meters. You'll almost reach the entrance of Medicine King Valley. The villager continued to point the way for them. I'm just a farmer, please let me go, no one wants to kill you. Li Fan rolled his eyes. Do what you need to do. Next time you see outsiders, don't shout to kill them. Medicine King Valley's herbs are extremely precious. In the past, there were always people who came to steal them. The villager tried to explain. That's why we're so xenophobic. Seeing outsiders is no different than seeing thieves. If this goes on, the village will be finished sooner or later. Li Fan reminded them. You might as well directly hire some experts from Medicine King Valley, or hire some external experts to protect you. You earn so much money, yet you're still so stingy. If thieves don't patronize you, who would they patronize? The villager was speechless. Then he was abandoned by Li Fan. Murong Ing and the others followed the winding path, looking for Medicine King Valley. Medicine King Valley should be a valley. From the mountainside of this small forest, they should be able to see it. But before entering the small forest, Murong Ing let the gold and silver swordsman take out a rope. Everyone tie this rope to your body. This way, in the soul confusion array, you can look out for each other. The gold and silver swordsman distributed the rope. There was a total of one, divided it into several sections, and tied it to their body. These ropes tied 5 people. This way, after entering the soul confusion array, it should be better. In front of them was a thick fog. They didn't know whether it was a natural fog or man-made fog. Li Fan used to read the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. In the water margin, it often said that there would be some Taoist priests who would make fog or something. But in reality, there shouldn't be such people. Everyone be careful. This fog is unusual. Murong Ing reminded them. Be careful. Got it. Li Fan took out his phone and used satellite positioning. In the end, he found that he couldn't receive any signal here. It seemed that using the phone to locate them wouldn't work. If he had known earlier, he would have asked Ling Tian for a GPS. But his GPS always had problems. Forget it, Li Fan was thinking, but when he looked up, he found that the surrounding people had disappeared. And the rope on his waist, he didn't know when it broke. Damn, what's going on? Li Fan was a little crazy. He quickly raised his voice and shouted twice. Murong Ing? Flowery monk? Li Fan shouted several times. Each shout was filled with true energy, almost piercing through the clouds. But the surrounding was still quiet. It was as if the fog had squeezed into his ears, blocking the surrounding sounds. Li Fan's hair stood on end. Fuck, was it really that weird? He stood in this fog, momentarily lost. There was not a single sound around. Li Fan couldn't even hear his own footsteps. What kind of ghost fog is this? It actually has such an effect. Li Fan was a little uncertain. He had never encountered such a situation before. Everything in front of him seemed to be vaguely unreal. Some kind of oppressive feeling assaulted him. This feeling was very uncomfortable, making Li Fan a little nauseous. Li Fan followed the road in front and kept moving forward. He walked for a full half an hour, but he still couldn't see any direction. The surrounding was still filled with fog, as if there was no end. Li Fan had an illusion that he seemed to have stepped into death, being dragged by death into this endless place. If this goes on, I'm afraid I'll starve to death here. Li Fan simply sat down and began to think of a way to solve this so-called bewitching array. But at this moment, Li Fan vaguely saw that in the thick fog in front of him, there seemed to be a huge Buddha statue. Chapter 478. Buddha statue? Li Fan was a little surprised. How could there be a Buddha statue in a place like this? A series of chanting Buddhist scriptures appeared beside Li Fan's ears. Who was chanting Buddha? Right? It was the flowery monk Subhuti. But where was he chanting? Why was this voice right beside his ears? Li Fan suddenly understood something. He closed his eyes and then suddenly opened them. He was still standing in the fog, and the rope around his waist was not broken. He could vaguely see the figures of the other 4 people. Subhuti stood there with his hands clasped together, chanting Buddhist scriptures. It was as if the surrounding white fog did not affect him at all. Li Fan also guessed that it was this ghost fog that could cause people to hallucinate. The moment they breathed in the white fog, they were all poisoned. Even the gold and silver swordsman would not be detoxified without 3 days. But this flowery monk Subhuti, completely ignored the poisonous fog. Could it be that this invincible golden body was not afraid of poison? Invincible golden body, invulnerable to all evils? But other than him, the other three did not seem to have woken up. Especially Murong-ing. She had lost her internal energy. It would be difficult for her to wake up from this fog. Amitba, Benefactor Li, you are finally awake. Subhuti seemed to be relieved. This little monk has chanted the Diamond Sutra for almost an hour, and Benefactor Li has finally woken up. What kind of fog is this? Seeing that the other three had not woken up, Li Fan knew that with Subhuti's chanting alone, he would not be able to wake the three of them. This Medicine King Valley is indeed strange. They even set up a poison array at the entrance. Li Fan smiled. This bunch of people are looking down on me, the little tyrant. Of course, there is also your contribution. Amitba, this little monk is only helping the people of the world. Subhuti said indifferently, everything is due to the great wisdom of Buddha. All right, time to disperse the fog. As Li Fan spoke, he took 2 steps back and stood outside the fog. Then he took a horse stance and folded his hands around his waist. Behind Li Fan, a huge dragon toad slowly appeared. Golden toad spitting pearls. Li Fan pushed his hands forward. The dragon toad opened its huge mouth and spat out a huge wave. A powerful palm wind swept out from Li Fan's body, directly blowing away the huge white fog in front of him. Subhuti was stunned for a moment. Clearly, he hadn't expected Li Fan to have such a method. Amitba. Amitba. He seemed rather speechless and could only chant the Buddhist scriptures twice. A huge valley appeared in front of them. The valley was covered in a thin layer of mist. There were many houses in the valley where the people who lived in the Medicine King Valley lived. Due to the white mist dispersing, Murong-ing and the gold and silver swordsmen slowly woke up. Were there ghosts in the fog just now? Murong-ing was smart. She knew what was going on the moment she woke up. The gold and silver swordsman stood at the side, feeling rather ashamed. Clearly, he resented himself for not being able to protect his master. Since we're already here, we might as well go in and greet them. Li Fan stretched his body and casually asked, we should be considered guests, right? Of course, and we're honored guests. Murong-ing was also somewhat dissatisfied. Obviously, the dignified martial arts alliance leader was actually played by this inexplicable white fog. This really made her angry. Ding, ding, ding. In the valley at the foot of the mountain, the sound of a bell rang. Looks like they're also here to welcome guests. Li Fan clenched his fist. He was also extremely angry. This trip to the Valley of the Medicine Masters was really exhausting. Hurry up and get the antidote, then leave this damn place. Medicine King Valley was still very deep. The 5 people walked to the edge. There was a large lift here, but the lift was at the bottom. If the people of Medicine King Valley did not lift the lift, normal people would not be able to go down. You guys wait here for a moment. Li Fan looked at the 1,000-meter-high valley floor. I'll be right back. Amitba, this 1,000-meter-deep valley, no matter how good almsgiver Li's Qinggong is, it will inevitably be dangerous. Subhuti spoke first. Why not leave it to this little monk? With that, without giving Li Fan and the others time to refuse, Subhuti directly jumped down from the 1,000-meter-deep sky. Damn, this brother doesn't know any Qinggong at all. Li Fan was shocked. Was this flowery monk looking for death? While Subhuti's body was in midair, in the process of falling, he curled up into a ball, like a ball. Boom! The earth trembled violently. Subhuti directly smashed a huge pit in the ground. It was like a meteorite falling from the sky. This terrifying destructive power. That flowery monk, was he still alive? Subhuti stretched his muscles and slowly stood up from the deep pit. He opened his mouth and apologized to the dumbfounded Medicine King Valley disciple beside him. Amitba, I'm really sorry I scared almsgiver. Damn it. The Medicine King Valley disciple pulled out a large knife and fiercely slashed at Subhuti's neck. Ding. Subhuti's neck did not move at all, but the knife's edge was bent. What the hell? The Medicine King Valley disciple was stunned, looking at the bent knife in shock. Amitba, playing with knives and spears can hurt people. Subhuti said, reaching out his hand, grabbed the knife's edge, and directly bent it. Eat my poison. The disciple had no choice but to take out a small cloth bag from his waist and let it fall. His level seemed to be very low, so he could only use the most primitive method to set up the poison fog. The green poison fog spread out. Subhuti put his hands together and stood in the fog, motionless. Damn, just one breath of this poison fog and your blood will stop flowing. 2 breaths and your blood will reverse. 3 breaths and your blood vessels will burst. Even an elephant will die from just 1 breath. The Medicine King Valley disciple said fiercely. Subhuti, however, let out a sigh. Amitba. Almsgiver's murderous aura is so heavy. Fuck. The Medicine King Valley disciple almost peed his pants. Why wasn't he dead? This was too damn strange. This poison was very powerful. Even an elephant would be poisoned to death, much less a monk. It would be bad if this poison fog harmed the flowers and plants. Subhuti said, inhaling all the poison fog into his lungs in 1 breath. Seeing this scene, the Medicine King Valley disciple completely collapsed. Almsgiver, if possible, please retreat. Subhuti said, it will be very dangerous here. There is a very scary person coming down from above. Master, save me. The Medicine King Valley disciple was so frightened that he turned and ran. Subhuti nodded in satisfaction. He walked to the side of the elevator, glanced at the elevator, and was a little dumbfounded. A sound wave reached Li Fan's ears. Almsgiver, this elevator, how do I use it? Chapter 479. Li Fan descended from the sky. His body stomped continuously in the air. Finally, he spun in the air and landed firmly on the ground. Li Fan landed without a sound. He was fundamentally different from Bodhi, who had caused a huge commotion. Bodhi seemed to be in a daze. He did not expect Li Fan's qigong to be so elegant. Almsgiver Li is indeed extraordinary. Fuck, you have the nerve to talk about others? Looking at the huge crater on the ground, Li Fan felt incredulous. This guy, is his body made of steel? Invincible golden body. This is too heaven-defying. Li Fan was tempted. Although this martial monk was a bit lecherous, if he could rope him into the escort agency, it would be beneficial to the agency's business. This lecherous monk must be annoyed to death by the Shaolin Temple, otherwise they would not have sent him to Murong-ing as if he was a gift. Bodhi, how are you doing in the Shaolin Temple? Li Fan continued to lower and lower the elevator while asking Subhuti, who was standing next to him. Not bad. Bodhi was slightly disappointed. But the food in the Shaolin Temple is too bland, and there are too few female benefactors. Occasionally, 1 or 2 female benefactors who need to be enlightened come, but my senior and junior brothers keep a close eye on me and don't give me the chance to enlighten them and become a Buddha. Li Fan blushed with shame. Then why don't you follow me? Li Fan began to spread the bait. I have a brother who knows many female benefactors who need to be enlightened. Really? Bodhi's eyes brightened. Don't judge me by my looks. I also have the heart to enlighten people. Li Fan pointed at himself and laughed. But I don't have the ability to enlighten people. Bodhi is better at this than I am. Amitba. This little monk only knows a little about Buddhism. Bodhi was a little shy. Then you can come with me later. Li Fan began his plan to become a human trafficker. Judging from the look on Subhuti's face, it seemed as though he was tempted as well. Then I'll listen to Benefactor Li's arrangements. What about the Shaolin Temple? Won't they let you go back? The host said that I should go down the mountain to train, but I can't use Shaolin Temple's name when I go out to train. Li Fan understood what Subhuti's explanation meant. This old monk had kicked his disciple out of the door. Why don't you let him go out and smear Shaolin's name? For a monk like Subhuti who drank and ate meat, to let him stay in Shaolin Temple would indeed only cause headaches for the monks in the temple. All right, you can stay by my side from now on. I guarantee that you'll have a girl to sleep with. Amitba. It's benefactor expiation. Don't be mistaken. Yes. Expiate. It's expiation. Li Fan laughed. It's my fault, my fault. I won't say it again. He cursed inwardly. Fuck, this darn monk sure has a good reputation. In the legends, the one who had to erect a chastity memorial after becoming a prostitute was probably the one in front of him. After the lift rose up, it finally descended. Murong-ing and the gold and silver swordsman walked out at the same time. We're finally here. Murong-ing looked at the small town in the valley in front of her and said softly, let's have a talk with the Yang Sect's sect master. Do you think they'll welcome us warmly? Li Fan looked at the Medicine King Valley in front of him and asked subconsciously. They'll definitely welcome us, but it's hard to say if they'll be warm or not. As Murong-ing spoke, she led the way into the depths of the Medicine King Valley. Li Fan shrugged and followed behind his fiancée. This woman was still so bold even though she had lost her internal energy. If you take another step forward, you'll be killed without mercy. A voice blew in everyone's face like a gust of wind. The voice sounded old, like an old lady's. There was no one around, but no one knew where the voice came from. I'm Murong-ing. Murong-ing said loudly, ask your sect master to speak. Murong-ing, I don't know you. The voice was still cold. Hurry up and get lost. Otherwise, I'll use poison to melt your bones. What a big tone. Murong-ing couldn't help but laugh. I want to see what kind of poison it is. As she spoke, Murong-ing took out the poison-repelling pearl that Li Fan had just given her and put it under her tongue. Li Fan had already sealed his qi door with true qi to prevent the invisible poisonous fog from invading. Pu Tuol was invulnerable, and the gold and silver swordsman had a natural immunity to poison. Now the five of them were the bane of poisons in their professions. The people of Medicine King Valley, if you don't come out, I won't be polite. Li Fan was very unhappy. The people of Medicine King Valley were too arrogant. Ridiculous. I told you to get lost, didn't you hear me? The voice became even sharper, stimulating Li Fan's eardrums. This old woman seemed angry, but Li Fan pointed to the tower next to him. Little Gold, come with your sword. Little Gold naturally referred to the gold and silver swordsman. He didn't listen to Li Fan's words, but looked at his master. Murong-ing nodded and pointed. The golden sword on his back was unsheathed and instantly shot toward the tower in the distance. A petite figure immediately fell from the tower, fell to the ground, holding her buttocks and groaning. She looked to be about 12 years old. She was still a child. Pretending to be an old woman to talk to us, isn't it a bit childish? Li Fan squatted on the ground, smiling at this little girl. This little girl snorted and unhappily stared at Li Fan. I'm not a little girl. I'm already 29 years old. I'm the current leader of Yin Gate. Li Fan was taken aback. This girl is the leader? You must be joking. Seeing Li Fan's eyes, the little girl quickly emphasized, I'm not lying to you. I'm really the leader of Yin Gate. Then let me ask you, do you know Song Fuya? Her? That's our Medicine King Valley's traitor. The little lowly immediately clenched her teeth. She's as hateful as you intruders. Humph, now that you know I'm the leader, you better kneel down and pay your respects. Otherwise I'll poison you all to death. Ha! Li Fan couldn't help but laugh. The beauty standing behind me is called Murong-ing, the current leader of Wulin. I don't even kneel when I see her. Why should I kneel when I see a little leader like you? Leader of Wulin? I don't believe she doesn't have any internal strength. The little lowly curled her lips. I don't have internal strength, it's all because of your Medicine King Valley. Murong-ing sneered, Song Fuya, this debt is on you, right? The little lowly patted her clothes, stood up and looked at Murong-ing. So you're saying you're poisoned by Indra? Indra? Everyone looked at each other. This was the first time they heard this name. Chapter 480. Indra, what the hell is that thing? Li Fan picked up the little lowly and asked. Bastard, I'm not telling you. The little lowly struggled desperately. I am the Yin sect master of the Medicine King Valley. You can't treat me like this. Li Fan laughed. You can't beat me anyway. I can do whatever I want to you. I'm going to use poison to kill you. Try it. Li Fan disagreed. Let's see if your poison has any effect on me. Right, let's try that Indra, how about it? Indra is the unique poison of that traitor Song Fuya. The little lowly said unhappily, although I don't want to admit it, that traitor still has a bit of talent. I've studied Indra for so long, but I still can't crack it. Then you can't either. Li Fan curled his lips. Is there no one else in your Yin sect, so you are the sect master? Bullshit. You stupid thing. I am a genius at refining poison. However, Indra is a poison that was accidentally formed from some messy things. It is even more powerful than the cultivation dissipation powder. Then you still can't figure it out. Li Fan shrugged his shoulders at Murong. It seems that this little girl can't do it. Who can't do it? When the little lowly heard this, she was immediately unhappy. This was a matter of self-esteem. Self-esteem? The Yin sect master is unworthy of his name. With how smart Murong was, she naturally knew Li Fan's calculations. She also sighed, let's go, we've come here for nothing. You bastards! Who said you can't do it? The little lowly hurriedly shouted, I am the Yin sect master. I seem to be the greatest expert in refining poison. Then do you have a way to deal with Indra? Li Fan took the opportunity to ask. Of course there is a way. The little lowly snorted, I have some friendship with a disciple of the Yang sect. If you ask him, he can detoxify your wife. In the end, we still have to ask others for help. Li Fan curled his lips. What do you know? Since ancient times, the Yin sect and the Yang sect each had their own specializations. I can use 100 ways to poison him, but I don't know how to cure any of them. If you want to detoxify it, only the pharmacology of the Yang school can do it. Your Medicine King's Valley sure is a strange place. Li Fan couldn't help but complain. Then can you take us to meet that Yang sect brother? I won't. The little lowly curled her lips. You guys don't respect me at all and even come to my Medicine King's Valley to cause trouble. What's wrong with me? I need to detoxify all of you. Swoosh. 2 treasured swords, 1 gold and 1 silver, suddenly stopped on either side of the little lowly's face. The 2 swords carried a fatal power, and the cold light made the little lowly shudder. Dang dang! But Li Fan flicked the 2 swords away and then said in dissatisfaction, you 2 actually made a move on a little girl, too inconsiderate. The gold and silver swordsman's face was filled with black lines. This Li Fan. Why is he always so unpredictable? Say it, what do you want to help us? Li Fan put the little lowly back on the ground and asked. I won't let you do it for free, say it. One thing for one thing? The little lowly thought for a moment. That seems to be a good idea, then I promise you. Murong and the others looked at each other, agreeing just like that. This little lowly's character is quite strange. I want you to help me kill a person. The little lowly raised a finger. Kill a person? Li Fan raised his eyebrows. Kill who? Song Fuya. When the little lowly mentioned this name, she gritted her teeth. As a traitor of Medicine King's Valley. I want her to pay the price. Okay, I promise you. Li Fan was secretly delighted. Isn't this exactly what I wanted? This woman Song Fuya, not only did she poison my fiancé, she also played me. Even if the little lowly didn't ask, I won't let Song Fuya have it easy. You are a man can't go back on his words, right? The little lowly asked. Yes, I swear. Li Fan held up 3 fingers, and the little lowly nodded in satisfaction. She stood there with her hands behind her back, speaking like an old man, giving off a feeling of a child growing up. Li Fan found it hard to imagine that this little girl was actually 29 years old. You are still a sect master. If you want to kill someone, why don't you just kill her yourself? Li Fan couldn't help but ask. Humph, we are not ordinary disciples of Medicine King's Valley. The little lowly explained. The sect masters of the Yin and Yang sect are the roots of Medicine King's Valley. No matter which generation, the sect master has a rule that no one is allowed to leave Medicine King's Valley. And that's Song Fuya. She betrayed the tradition of Medicine King's Valley. So what awaits her is only the death penalty. You guys, come with me. The little lowly walked in the direction of the valley with her hands behind her back. Little lowly, Can you reveal something? Li Fan couldn't hold back his curiosity and asked. Why do you look like a child? Hey, your words are very hurtful to my self-esteem. The little loli looked at Li Fan with dissatisfaction. Also, I have a name. My name is Xiong Zitong. You can just call me Sect Master Xiong. That's quite a big style. Of course. The little loli said proudly, do you think that just anyone can be the sect master of the Yin sect? She continued, when I was about 12 years old, I inhaled a strange poison that spread throughout my body. She looked at her wrist, there was a red blood mark on it, like a birthmark. This poison has spoiled my growth, causing me to remain in this state. How good, you'll be young forever. If it were me, I would want it too. Li Fan laughed, but the little loli rolled her eyes. Good my ass, this poison shortened my life, I won't live to 60. Well then I don't want it. Li Fan hurriedly waved his hand, that's why beauty comes with a price. This is it. The little loli stopped in front of a very long road. This is the Yangguan Road, the place that leads to the Yang Gate. Li Fan took a look. This Yang Gate seemed to be a good place. The entire place was sunny and beautiful. It was really like a paradise. I can only go this far. The little loli stopped in front of the Yangguan Road and stood there, not moving. But if you don't take us in, how will we know who to look for? Take this. The little loli took out a token with the word "in" written on it from her sleeve and handed it to Li Fan. Take this and tell them to look for Luo Xiaofeng, they will help you find him. As for me, the disciples of the Yin Gate are not allowed to enter the Yangguan Road, and the disciples of the Yang Gate are not allowed to enter the Bridge of Helplessness. This is the rule. You really like to follow the rules. Chapter 481. Of course, nothing can be accomplished without rules. Little Lolita clasped her hands behind her back and said seriously, anyway, I've already taught you the method, what happens next is up to you. With that, little Lolita turned and left, ignoring Li Fan and the others. Let's go. Murong Ing was a very straightforward person. She directly set foot on this clean and tidy Yangguan Road. Yangguan Road, Bridge of Helplessness. Li Fan said that the people of Medicine King Valley were really good at naming, coming up with these two names. Step on Yangguan Road, straight to the 9 heavens. On Yangguan Road, there was such a sign erected. That's quite a big mouth. Murong Ing seemed to be laughing at him. Tomorrow, put up a sign in front of my escort agency. Li Fan immediately applied what he had learned, right? Walk on Yangguan Road, cross the Bridge of Helplessness. You're even more arrogant. Murong Ing rolled her eyes at Li Fan. Be careful that someone comes to challenge your agency. You're very welcome. Li Fan gently clapped his hands. Sooner or later, you'll suffer. Murong Ing ridiculed Li Fan. How can one not be stabbed in the pugilistic world? Li Fan had already gotten over it. I'm not the type to swallow my anger. And even if I do, those people will only think that I'm easy to bully, and then they'll make trouble for me even more. Truly worthy of the title, Little Overlord. Murong Ing nodded. All right, then let's increase your strength. The group walked all the way through Yangguan Road, facing a small house. Each house had its own chimney, smoke curling up. It seems that the pharmacists of Yang sect are busy refining medicine. Murong Ing said, still looking around as if trying to find where Luo Xiaofeng was. And beside Li Fan, there was a small pendulum clock. Subhoodie glanced at them, then stepped forward and pulled the pendulum clock. The pendulum clock let out a crisp sound, attracting the attention of a crippled old man. Leaning on his walking stick, he walked over step by step and sized up Li Fan and the others. Who let you in? The old man asked bluntly. Li Fan took out the token directly. The old man glanced at it and was a little surprised. Then what are you doing here? We're looking for Luo Xiaofeng. Li Fan went straight to the point. Where does he live? The old man pointed to a house for them. But it's hard to say if you'll be able to meet him. He's not a ghost. There's nothing he can't see. Li Fan found it very strange. Why were the people of Medicine King Valley so strange? Bang! Just as Li Fan was puzzled, the house that the old man had pointed at suddenly exploded. Black smoke billowed out. Li Fan was a little dumbfounded. What the fuck was going on? Was there a bomb? While Li Fan was surprised, the old man was very calm. Again, he's lucky to be alive until now. The old man sighed. You guys deal with it yourselves. With that, the old man turned and walked away, not wanting to stay for another minute. Li Fan and Murong Ing looked at each other, both a little dazed. It seemed like the medicine request was getting more and more difficult. A man in his 20s, disheveled clothes and messy hair, came crashing out of the smoking room. He knelt on the ground and coughed violently. His house started to burn, and if this continued, he was afraid that the house would be burnt to ashes. Li Fan took a step forward and struck out with his palm. The powerful palm wind blew out the flames on the house. The young man was stunned for a moment, then his eyes fell on Li Fan and Murong Ing. For you, it doesn't matter who we are. We're just here to ask for the antidote. Li Fan said and once again flashed the token that the little lowly gave him. Help my fiancé cure Indra. Can you do it? Poisoned by Indra? This sloppy young man's face was blackened by the smoke. Hearing Li Fan's words, he ran over excitedly and pounced on Murong Ing. What? Li Fan pressed his hand on the young man's head to prevent him from getting too close to Murong Ing. This is the first time I've seen someone poisoned by Indra. Let me check. Traditional Chinese medicine can only be diagnosed by listening, questioning, and palpation. Can't you just look a few times? Li Fan was very unhappy. He always felt that this Luo Xiaofeng was like a hungry wolf. What can you see just by looking? This Indra is invisible and colorless. It's only effective on internal energy. At the very least, let me check your pulse. All right, Li Fan, don't be so stingy. Murong Ing pulled Li Fan away. I'll have to trouble you. Murong Ing handed over her wrist. Luo Xiaofeng looked at Li Fan worriedly and anxiously placed his finger on Murong Ying's wrist. He felt the beating of Murong Ying's pulse. Luo Xiaofeng's eyebrows slightly wrinkled together. How long has this Indra been poisoned for? About half a month or so. Murong Ing recalled the time, but Luo Xiaofeng kept shaking his head. What do you mean? Is your neck cramping? Li Fan was a little worried. Could it be that Murong Ing had a terminal illness? The medicine that I refined can indeed cure her poison. Luo Xiaofeng said, it's just that she has been poisoned for too long. The poison in her body is deeply rooted. Even if I cure her Indra, the true qi in her body will not be able to recover. But it's like a spring has dried up. The dantian in this heroine's body has already withered. Although Murong Ing did not say anything, but from her expression, it could be seen that she was absolutely not happy at this moment. It was not easy for her to become the martial arts alliance master. Murong Ing was so proud that she could not accept this kind of result. The key point was that Murong Ing did not become like this because she was defeated in a martial arts competition. Instead, it was because she was poisoned. To her, this was simply more painful than death. Li Fan immediately asked, other than this, is there no other way? As long as I simultaneously cure this heroine's dantian, it will be fine. Luo Xiaofeng said, however, this is impossible to do. Who said so? Li Fan was full of confidence. Leave it to me. You can immediately cure her. Amitba. Benefactor Li, are you confident? Subhuti could not help but be a little worried. This Indra is a strange poison. If it is not handled properly, Benefactor Murong may be able to ascend to heaven. Wife, do you believe in me? Li Fan did not answer Subhuti. Instead, he turned to ask Murong Ing. What are you afraid of? Just do it. Murong Ying's imposing manner was incomparable. She said straightforwardly, Li Fan, whatever methods you have, use them all. It's not like I'm going to kill you. Li Fan was very speechless. He turned to Luo Xiaofeng and said, Pharmacist Luo, shall we begin? Chapter 482. Li Fan and Murong Ing both sat on Luo Xiaofeng's bed. Rather than a bed, it was more like a hard wooden board. Moreover, the surface was burnt black and looked very shabby. Those who didn't know would think that this was a slum. There was also a big alchemy furnace next to it, which was probably the alchemy furnace that Luo Xiaofeng used for work. The alchemists of Medicine King Valley, in addition to their excellent medical skills, loved to do the most was alchemy. It could be said that alchemy was their destiny. They spent their entire lives in order to refine the best pills. Every alchemist's biggest dream was to refine the legendary 7-star pill. This 7-star pill was a kind of medicine recorded in the legends. If one could eat one, it could increase one's lifespan by 60 years. But this 7-star pill only appeared in the legends. For hundreds of years, countless alchemists of Medicine King Valley had been working hard to develop this legendary longevity pill. But at this moment, Luo Xiaofeng was holding another pill and handed it to Li Fan. After eating it, the medicine will take effect. Luo Xiaofeng told Li Fan, within a minute, no matter what you do, you must do it. Otherwise, when the medicine takes effect, this heroine will lose her internal strength forever. There was a hidden danger in this sentence. I understand. Li Fan nodded, while Luo Xiaofeng left the room. For the medicine to take effect, it needed to be in contact with the air. Therefore, Murong Ying couldn't wear any clothes. Among these people, only Li Fan, Murong Ying's fiancé, could see his wife's naked appearance. As Luo Xiaofeng left, Murong Ying slowly took off her clothes and sat in front of Li Fan. This was a perfect work meticulously created by God. No matter what, Li Fan was also a veteran who had seen countless movies, but looking at Murong Ying at this moment, his eyes couldn't help but stare blankly. Although he always knew that Murong Ying had a good figure, but now he could see it clearly. He couldn't help but admit that his fiancée's chest shape was perfect. It was so beautiful that no one could find a single flaw in it. Her skin was also very white and tender. She did not look like a martial artist who practiced martial arts all year round. Instead, she looked like a newborn baby. This should be related to the fact that Murong Ying usually paid attention to maintaining her body and nurturing her true qi. This was a perfect goddess, completely displayed in front of him. Li Fan didn't even dare to have too many thoughts, for fear of blaspheming this goddess. Are you done? Murong Ying suddenly said, if you're done, then hurry up and start. I know. My wife is so impatient. Li Fan adjusted his state of mind. Now was not the time to appreciate the beautiful scenery. He fed the pill to Murong Ying, and then placed a hand on her chest. It felt good to the touch. This pair of flawless breasts was definitely of the highest quality. However, now was not the time to savor the feeling of breasts. If she continued to feel it, Murong Ying's life would be ruined. There was still time to play in the future. There was no need to rush this moment. Li Fan suddenly entered the heaven-swallowing toad state. Following that, his dantian was activated. A powerful suction force exploded from his palm. Dragon toad absorption. Li Fan's strength exploded. His palm was like a black hole, instantly sucking in Murong Ying's dantian. If he only used his pure yang body to absorb Murong Ying's strength through his mouth, it would be difficult to achieve the desired effect. Because that method was too gentle. It would not achieve the effect that Li Fan wanted. Li Fan's hand fiercely pulled on Murong Ying's dried-up dantian, as if he wanted to pull this dantian out from Murong Ying's body. Bang! 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 The continuous explosions made Murong Ying frown deeply. She was enduring an extremely terrifying pain. Murong Ying did not know how painful it was to give birth, but at this moment, that kind of pain was not something that an ordinary person could endure. Murong Ying felt as if someone was tearing her dantian apart. Her body felt as if it was about to be torn into two halves. But the two of them were persevering. Li Fan's dragon toad absorption was unable to absorb true energy, which was very dangerous for him. But he still endured the pain of his dantian shattering as he exerted force on Murong Ying's dantian again and again. 10 more seconds. Li Fan silently calculated the time in his heart. Murong Ying, if you are the Martial Arts Alliance Master, then bring out the aura of the Martial Arts Alliance Master. Li Fan roared, and the dragon toad absorption in his hand was displayed to the extreme. Murong Ying finally let out a scream, and her body trembled heavily. Her breasts also trembled. Li Fan almost could not bear it. This kind of scene would definitely cause people to go crazy. Relying on his strong willpower, he endured it. Come out. Li Fan used all his strength to pull, and Morong Ying's dantian suddenly glowed with new life, and a stream of true energy was forcefully pulled out. But as if there was a reaction from her body, Morong Ying's lower body also sprayed out a crystal-clear stream of water, slapping Li Fan's face, directly causing him to be stunned. What was going on? Morong Ying herself was also blushing. She did not expect that the true energy that sprayed out from her dantian could also carry water. She subconsciously waved her hand, and Li Fan's body was wrapped in powerful true energy, and directly flew out, breaking through the wall, and fell outside. How is it? Luo Xiaofeng did not know what had happened. He hurried forward and asked Li Fan, who was lying on the ground. Dragon toad absorbs water. Li Fan lay there in a daze. It's really sucking out water. This trip to seek medicine was worth it? Brother Li, did you succeed or not? Why is your face wet? Amitba, good indeed, good. Pewdie seemed to understand something, put his palms together, and chanted. Li Fan secretly cursed, fuck, this perverted monk. I'm fine. Morong Ying wore a rose-colored cheongsam again, as if nothing had happened, and walked out of the room. She looked at Luo Xiaofeng and said, Master Luo, you are a talent. But staying in Medicine King Valley, you will never be able to break through. Why don't you go out and see the suffering of this world, and the various forms of life? Maybe it will be of help to you in refining medicine. Li Fan could not help but want to give a thumbs up. Fuck, she was his wife after all, even her ability to poach people was so strong. But I have never left Medicine King Valley. Luo Xiaofeng seemed to be a little hesitant, and Morong Ying threw another vicious medicine. In my hands, I have the Shinong Cauldron. Ugh. Luo Xiaofeng almost went crazy. The Shinong Cauldron, this is a top-grade cauldron for refining pills. Legend has it that it was missing, but it was actually in the hands of this heroine? This heroine? Who are you, and why do you have this divine cauldron? I am the leader of the martial arts world. Chapter 483. Morong Ying's words were mighty and domineering. But Li Fan felt that the reason why Luo Xiaofeng would follow them was because of the Shinong Cauldron. He was not an alchemist and naturally did not know much about these things. But with Luo Xiaofeng, an alchemist by his side, at least his safety was guaranteed. The group left the Medicine King Valley. When they parted, the little lowly Xiong Zitong reminded Li Fan to remember the agreement between the two. Don't worry, I won't forget what I've said. Li Fan comforted the little lowly, and then they followed the Medicine King village and prepared to return. But when he saw the two cars parked in the Medicine King village, he was dumbfounded. The two cars were smashed into pieces, and the two drivers were gone. Only the economic advisor was left sitting there, bleeding from his head, and his clothes were torn. He looked like a hooligan in the old society, wearing only a pair of underpants, which made people's hearts ache. Li Fan's heart also ached. An alpha and a tyrannical were smashed into pieces just like that. These guys were too prodigal. Big miss. The economic advisor's arms were tied, and he sat there miserably. His nose was bleeding, and he was almost crying as he complained to Morong Ying. You're finally back. The economic advisor was crying with snot and tears. Morong Ying gave him a look, and the gold and silver swordsman quickly stepped forward and untied the rope on him. Who did this to you, the driver? Morong Ying asked. It's the villagers, those demon-like villagers. The economic advisor was scared witless, as if he had encountered the most terrible thing in his life. Don't worry. Morong Ying softly comforted. No matter what you encounter, I will help you. Morong Ying's voice seemed to have some kind of magic, making the economic advisor's mood slowly calm down. Where are they? Morong Ying asked. The reason why the economic advisor was left here must be to remind Li Fan and bring a message. They are in a small factory over there. Li Fan and the others looked in the direction of the economic advisor's hand. Sure enough, there was a small factory there. Looks like it's not a pharmaceutical factory. Li Fan rubbed his chin and looked at the factory. Of course, those villagers value their land very much. They won't pollute their own village with a pharmaceutical factory. Murong-ing finally knew what the villagers were like. But since they dared to touch my people, I, Murong-ing, will not let them have it easy. My wife is mighty and domineering. Domineering your sister. Hurry up and save them. The two drivers are ordinary people. They can't handle such a scene. Murong-ing was very concerned about the safety of her two drivers. There were not many bosses who cared about their subordinates like this. Gold and silver, go find a car. Murong-ing instructed the gold and silver swordsman. The two nodded and left Li Fan's sight. You two, don't make a move when the time comes. When they walked to the front of the factory, Murong-ing ordered Li Fan and Pewdie. What about me? Luo Xiaofeng carried a big medicine box and followed behind them. You just watch the fun. Li Fan patted his shoulder. My wife plans to handle it alone. After all, they are her subordinates. But you don't have much fighting power. Pay attention to your own safety. Don't look at me like this. In fact, I also practice martial arts. Luo Xiaofeng immediately said with dissatisfaction, I am different from ordinary pharmacists. I have the ability to protect myself. Don't make trouble. Who's making trouble? Luo Xiaofeng proved himself. He took out a few silver needles from a small bag. I know the most important acupuncture points. If I stab you, huff. Come, try to stab me. Li Fan stretched out his arm. Humph, you look down on me. You can't afford it. Luo Xiaofeng picked up the silver needles while Li Fan wrapped his arm with his true qi. Blocking a silver needle was a piece of cake for him. But this silver needle directly pierced through Li Fan's true qi and pricked an acupuncture point on his arm. Li Fan's arm immediately became numb, unable to move. Li Fan was taken aback. An ordinary silver needle could actually ignore his true qi defense? Your mother. How did you do that? It's very simple. Even if it's true qi, there will be gaps and weak points. Luo Xiaofeng explained, it's the same as the human body. Even if it's a soft silver needle, it can pierce through the hard bone. Luo Xiaofeng's explanation made Li Fan unable to defend himself. Unexpectedly, his stubbornness in medicine created a terrible chemical reaction. Even if it's true qi, there will be weak points? Li Fan fell into deep thought. Of course, everything has a weakness. Luo Xiaofeng nodded and said confidently, there are no exceptions. You're good. But can you pull out this needle? Li Fan was afraid that he would accidentally pull out something wrong, so he could only ask Luo Xiaofeng. Let him stab it for a while. Without waiting for Luo Xiaofeng to speak, Murong-ing had already given the order. Hey, I'm your husband. Do you want me to become a one-armed Yonggua? Li Fan snappily said. Humph, who asked you to be so arrogant before? Murong-ing's vengeance was quite strong. Last time when she was in prison, he took advantage of her. He still hadn't forgotten it. This girl really holds a grudge. Okay, I'll listen to the female boss. Luo Xiaofeng nodded without hesitation and firmly stood on Murong-ing's side. If you want to pull it out, beg me. Murong-ing said, just say, wife, I was wrong. Help me. Li Fan had no choice but to hang one of his arms first. Anyway, he wouldn't die. What was there to be afraid of? He absolutely couldn't bow to Murong-ing. He hung his arm and followed behind Murong-ing, entering the small factory together. There was a faint smell of medicine in the small factory. It seemed to be a light medicine processing plant. But there seemed to be no one in the factory. In the empty hall, there were only 4 people, including Murong-ing, Li Fan, and the others. However, all of this couldn't be hidden from Li Fan. He took out a mint from his pocket and stuffed it into his mouth. A total of 12 people, all experts. Amitba. It's 13 people. Pewdie added, there's one person who hid very well. I didn't expect that after so many years, there would be people from the martial arts world visiting my village again. A somewhat old voice sounded in a corner on the 2nd floor. Chapter 484. The lights in the small factory lit up and shone on the 2nd floor. In the corner, A man in a wheelchair was slowly being pushed out. There was a long scar on the man's face. It ran from his left eye all the way to his right cheek and chin. It could be said to be a ghastly sight. He didn't seem to be young. He had a head of white hair and there were some ugly age spots on his skin. This old man wasn't alone. There were 12 people standing behind him. Each of them wore a devil mask on their faces. They looked extremely ferocious, as if they had really crawled out of hell. All of them stared fiercely at Murong-ing and the others. "You're not from Huaxia." Murong-ing looked at the nagging old man on the second floor and directly asked, "Where did you come from? Why did you touch my people?" "I'm really sorry. You can call me Old Emo," the old man said with a chuckle. "You'll like this name, because I like it very much. However, I definitely won't be polite to those who trespass into my village." "What did you do to the two of them?" Murong-ing had a bad premonition. The old man clapped his hands, and a ghost-masked man immediately threw out 2 people. The 2 of them had already fainted, but all the bones in their bodies were broken. "They trespassed into my village, so I punished them." The old man's smile looked as if he was crying. This smile, coupled with his face, was as scary as it could be. "Girl, the few of you will also receive the same punishment," the old man said very rudely. "It seems that you really don't know anything." Li Fan sighed. "Wife, I don't care anymore. You do it yourself." Murong-ing had said that he and Subhuti were not to interfere. It just so happened that he also had an arm that he couldn't use, so he simply stood there and watched the show. Amitba, Subhuti chanted the name of Buddha. It was unknown if he was chanting it for Murong-ing or for the 13 unlucky ghosts. "These are the 12 evil spirits that I trained. Each of them has reached the peak of strength." The old man's face was full of confidence. "Any one of the 12 experts is enough to send you to heaven. Hiding in this Medicine King village, these 12 people are my last line of defense." Although he didn't know who this old man was, Li Fan felt that he might be in trouble today. Li Fan didn't interfere, but he was still curious. Before the 2 sides started fighting, Li Fan asked, "We're going to die today anyway. Why don't you let us die knowing?" "This little kid has some self-awareness." Old Emo nodded. "I appreciate smart people. What do you want to know? Ask away." Murong-ing understood Li Fan's intentions, so she didn't say anything. "Old mister, where are you from? Why did you choose to hide in this godforsaken Medicine King village?" "Me?" Old Mo's eyes seemed to be full of memories. Just now the girl said, "I'm not from Huaxia." He thought that since they were already dead, it would not hurt to talk to them about his own things. He had kept these things in his heart for so many years, so he had to tell them. He couldn't tell the living, but he could tell the dead. "I'm from Japan. My real name seems to be Ryama Koji." It seemed that it was too long ago that old Emo forgot his original name. He murmured and continued, "I'm from Japan's Dongqinghui. At that time, we were defeated and everyone was retreating to our country. However, a group of men of sacrifice was left on the mainland to cultivate underground forces, waiting for the Mikado's army to set foot on this land again." Shit. Li Fan's heart skipped a beat. This old guy is actually a figure from World War II? This guy must be 70 or 80 years old. It seems that he ate a lot of exotic minerals and produce in the Medicine King village. This guy is really long-lived. This is the fledgling plan left by our Dongqinghui. And many fledglings are left on the mainland, lurking among you. As long as these fledglings are here, the mainland will belong to us sooner or later. That's a good idea. The fascists have been destroyed long ago. Li Fan sneered. "You're really good at choosing a place to daydream in this deep mountain forest. I think you're not young anymore. Why don't you bury yourself early? What do you think?" "Kid, you're too naive." Old Emo gently knocked the ground with his walking stick. "We fledglings have grown into fully feathered eagles. How can your current martial fighters compare to the eagles?" "Really?" Murong-ing had heard enough. She stepped forward and pointed at old Emo on the second floor with 2 fingers. "Then let me see how powerful your so-called eagles are. The story is over. It's time for you to go to hell with my secret," old Emo said and knocked the ground with his walking stick. A man with a ghost mask suddenly disappeared and then appeared behind Murong-ing in an instant with a dagger in his hand. It seemed that he was going to cut open Murong-ying's throat. Li Fan couldn't help exclaiming, "What a powerful assassination skill! This old emo has trained 12 great killers. 12 killers at the peak of perfection? Gee, when did the peak of perfection become so worthless?" But Murong-ing put up 2 fingers and flicked on the dagger. Clang. The dagger was directly knocked off, and the sharp blade had curled. It could be seen how powerful the sword chi on Murong-ying's fingers was. "I'm really sorry. I, Murong-ing, will take the heads of your 12 evil ghosts." As Murong-ing said, her 2 fingers had been poked into the temples of the man with a ghost mask. The sword chi burst out from the other side of the man's head and minced his head into pieces. When Murong-ing unleashed her power, not everyone would be able to stop her. "Nanny?" Old Mo said something rare in Japanese, while Murong-ing had jumped to the 2nd floor with lightness skill. The rest of the evil ghosts were eager to protect their master, so they all rushed to Murong-ing. But Murong-ing was so powerful. She stepped on the railing of the 2nd floor with her high heels, and her body was as steady as a mountain. Her 2 hands were like swords. Anyone who was half a meter away from her was beheaded by her without mercy. Baka! Old Mo knew that Murong-ing was not easy to deal with. He pointed at Li Fan and others with his walking stick. "Catch those people and force her to give in." As soon as he finished his words, 2 men with ghost masks appeared in front of Li Fan. Pewdie stood aside and didn't intend to take action at all. But Li Fan's face darkened. "Damn, are you bullying the disabled?" Chapter 485. Li Fan grabbed the face of a man with a ghost mask with his left hand. He used his tiger claws to break his mask and then his head. On the other side, the man with a ghost mask pulled out a small katana and stabbed at Li Fan's ribs. He was indeed a master at the peak of perfection, especially an assassin. His saber technique was very powerful. However, Li Fan just gave a muffled groan. The silver needle in his right arm immediately flew out and was nailed between the eyebrows of the man with a ghost mask. The man with a ghost mask fell to the ground and died. Neither of them could escape from Li Fan's hands alive. Li Fan had always been friendly to his international friends. But since they were here to make trouble, he would not be polite to them. "You snatched my kill." Murong-ing complained unhappily. "Fuck, miss, you have to collect the kill by yourself, okay? Humph, you also liked to snatch my kill when we were playing LOL in the past." Murong-ing recalled the past. "You also snatched my kill in reality. You're a competitive man." Li Fan suddenly did not know how to defend himself. Meanwhile, Murong-ing had killed the rest of the men with ghost masks. Seeing the 12 men of sacrifice whom he had trained painstakingly die in the blink of an eye, Old Mo's lips trembled. "No, it's impossible." Old Mo could not believe his eyes. He stared at Murong-ing and asked, Who on earth are you?" "I'm Murong-ing, the chief of Wuling." Murong-ing directly told him her name. She stretched out 2 fingers and pointed at Old Mo. "I can't pretend that I didn't hear what you said just now." "Impossible." Old Mo did not believe it. "How could the chief of Wuling be a little girl like you? Are you looking down on my age or my gender?" Murong-ing raised her eyebrows slightly. "Little girl. Don't brag. Go to hell." As Old Mo spoke, another figure suddenly flew out from his back. This figure was very ghostly, like a phantom. In the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of Murong-ing. The figure had no hands. At the ends of its palms were 2 long swords. It slashed towards Murong-ing. He was so fast that even Murong-ing couldn't see him clearly. But for Murong-ing, she didn't need to see it clearly at all. Only the weakest martial artists needed to use their eyes to see. Murong-ing flicked the 2 swords away with 2 fingers. At the same time, Murong-ing lifted her leg and kicked the figure. Bang! This guy flew out, but as Old Mo pulled him back with both hands, he stabilized himself in the air. As the light shone on him, Murong-ing finally saw that he was not a human, but a puppet in disguise. The puppet seemed to be made in the shape of a woman. Between its legs, there was a sponge-like thing. Fuck. Li Fan saw everything clearly from below. This old fart took out his inflatable doll and used it as a weapon. Pa. It's time for you to die. After a moment of panic, old Mo seemed to be a little excited. You're the president of Wulin. That's great. After killing you, our fledgling plan will be one step closer to our goal. Old Mo was so happy that his hands seemed to be entangled with many transparent silk threads. Corpse stitching skill? This idea floated in Li Fan's mind. He swung his hands and more silk threads flew out. The 12 ghost-masked men who were killed once again stood up coyly, bringing with them a very strange aura. Corpse stitching skill? Isn't this the lost kung fu of the devil cult? Murong-ing also recognized this kung fu. Ha! Yes, you're right. I didn't stay here for nothing. As old Mo spoke, he controlled the 12 men with ghost masks and the multi-purpose puppets he made, and they all pounced on Murong-ing. Amitba, do you need help, President? Pewdie asked with some concern, but Li Fan patted him on the shoulder. Dude, those who steal people's lives are all dogs. Pewdie obviously didn't understand, but Murong-ing had already launched another attack. As the president of Murong, she still stepped on the railing and opened her hands. From her palms, pieces of cherry blossom petals flew out, turning illusion into reality. What the? Old Mo was dumbfounded. The legendary martial arts realm was really used today? And it was a little girl? These cherry blossom petals directly penetrated the bodies of the men with ghost masks, tore them apart in the air, and cut off the silk threads that old Mo used to control his puppets. Damn it, old Mo couldn't sit still anymore, and the disgusting smile on his face disappeared. What's wrong? Don't you feel proud? Murong-ing looked down at old Mo in the wheelchair. Damn it. How can you be so powerful? Old Mo looked a little dull. Has the martial arts of Huaxia surpassed so much? No, since you're the president of Wulin, you must be the most powerful in Huaxia. Sorry, I also want to be the most powerful in Huaxia. Murong-ing shrugged her shoulders. Unfortunately, there's always someone better than you. There are too many people who are more powerful than me in Huaxia. That's absolutely impossible. Old Mo didn't believe Murong-ing at all, and his eyes suddenly fell on Li Fan. That person is your man, right? I'd like to see whether you have the courage to kill your man. As old Mo said, he suddenly ejected invisible silk threads, which instantly bound Li Fan. What? Li Fan was a little surprised to see that his hands didn't listen to him and moved twice. Ha! You're my puppet now. Damn it, how can I do that? Looking at old Mo's complacent smile, Li Fan immediately curled his lips. I don't want to be your puppet. It's so disgusting. It's not up to you. Old Mo said arrogantly, my corpse stitching skill is unparalleled in the world. No matter how powerful you are, once you've been hit by this skill, you have to obey my orders obediently. As he said, old Mo controlled Li Fan and made Li Fan jump up. Using lightness skill, he landed on the second floor and stood in front of his fiancée. Okay. Murong-ing didn't care. I'll chop off your head first, and then this Japanese old man. Damn it, calm down. I'm your fiancé. Li Fan broke out in a cold sweat, while old Mo burst into laughter. Ah, stupid Chinaman, go and kill each other. As he said, he controlled Li Fan and made Li Fan attack Murong-ing. However, Li Fan didn't move even a bit when old Mo activated the silk threads. What? Old Mo was very surprised that his corpse stitching skill didn't work. How could it be? Old man, have you had enough fun? Li Fan lowered his voice and seemed to be a little unhappy. It's my turn, right? Chapter 486. That's impossible. Old Mo felt that he had suffered a great shock today. It seemed that the whole world had changed. All of this was against his common sense. Oh man, come on, take my punch. Li Fan was very unhappy that this old guy wanted to control him like a puppet. The name Little Tyrant was not just for show. The thing that Li Fan hated the most was someone controlling him. He took a step forward and threw a punch at the old man's face. Bang! Old Mo's body flew out directly. He spun several times in the air and finally broke the wall behind him. He fell from the second floor to the ground outside. Old Mo's legs were disabled. Without a wheelchair, he could hardly move. At this time, he was lying in the sand in embarrassment and moaning painfully. "You're here to kill me again." Murong-ing was very unhappy and glared at Li Fan. "Nonsense, I didn't kill him." Li Fan hurriedly corrected Murong-ying's point of view. "I helped you, okay? It's a godly assist." Humph. Murong-ing flicked her sleeves and lightly landed outside along the broken wall. She looked at the old Japanese spy lying on the ground. "Who else is involved in the fledgling project besides you?" Murong-ing was a little worried about the fledgling project, which didn't sound like a good thing. Don't expect me to tell you." Old Mo was a little desperate, but his faith in the Mikado was not extinguished. "You Chinese people are the stupidest people in the world. Our fledgling wings will spread again. The iron hooves of our Mikado will step on your land again." Murong-ying's high-heeled shoes stepped on his forehead and pierced his eyebrows. "In this case, it's useless to keep you alive." "Damn, you killed him just like that?" Li Fan followed her out and couldn't help asking when he saw the old man's body lying on the ground. "Torture him and make him tell us the name list of the fledgling project members. These people are brainwashed death warriors." Murong-ing said straightforwardly, "He's the same as the devil cult's men of sacrifice, very tight-lipped. Even if they die, they won't reveal their secrets." "All right." Li Fan sighed. It was a pity that the true qi in his body was gone. Otherwise, if he absorbed it, he could have made some progress. Although this old man was crippled, he was indeed an expert who had reached the peak of perfection. In addition, if he entered the Jianghu with 12 experts, he could indeed stir up a bloody storm. However, he was unlucky enough to bump into Murong-ing. "Luo Xiaofeng, how could you not know that there is such a big collaborator in Yaowang village?" Li Fan couldn't help but complain to Dr. Luo. "Sigh, we don't care about the secular world," Luo Xiaofeng hurriedly explained. "Every day I'm busy refining pills. As for what happens outside the valley, it has nothing to do with us." He continued, "The Medicine King village is only responsible for the livelihood of our valley, such as sending us some vegetables and meat. As for other matters, we don't care about them." "Speaking of which, it's really dangerous," Li Fan exclaimed. "If he does something to the Medicine King Valley, I'm afraid that this place where the treasures of China are kept will cease to exist." "No one can control the Medicine King Valley," Luo Xiaofeng said confidently. "The Medicine King Valley is a maverick existence. No matter who it is, they can't control the Medicine King Valley." "But there's someone who wants to control us." Murong-ing looked into the distance with a hint of worry in her eyes. "If Li Wei really becomes the emperor of the pugilistic world, I'm afraid that no sect in the Jianghu will be able to escape his clutches. Alliance leader, why don't you become the emperor of the pugilistic world?" Luo Xiaofeng was not familiar with the affairs of the world and knew nothing about them. Hence, he asked a question that made Murong-ing feel extremely awkward. "It's no longer a feudal society," Murong-ing reminded Luo Xiaofeng. "The Jianghu doesn't need an emperor. The gold and silver swordsman is back." Li Fan saw a small white truck driving over slowly. The gold swordsman was driving while the silver swordsman was standing on the dump truck at the back. "Damn, this car is a little too advanced. It's good enough to have a seat." As Murong-ing spoke, she stomped on the ground and somersaulted in the air. Then she landed steadily on the back of the truck. "Master, please take a seat in the car." The silver swordsman hurriedly half-knelt in front of Murong-ing and requested respectfully. "It's all right, the scenery outside is good." Murong-ing did not care about that. She stood in the car and gestured for Li Fan and the others to follow her. "Okay, even the alliance leader sits in such a car, let alone small fries like us." Li Fan laughed self-deprecatingly while Pewdie added, "Even an expert like Li Fan is a small fry. If an expert like Benefactor Li is just a small fry, then aren't we just ants?" "Buddha says that all living beings are equal," Li Fan reminded Pewdie. "Almsgiver Li is right, this little monk is too arrogant. The perverted monk immediately changed his words, and Li Fan laughed again. No, 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 Pewdie, you haven't said that all living beings are equal. Why do you usually only enlighten female benefactors? Why don't you take the time to enlighten male benefactors? Amit ba. Excellent, excellent. Pewdie's face was pale, and he was obviously frightened by Li Fan's words. Moreover, these words made him unable to refute. It was simply stabbing his heart. You two, stop bickering. Who can help Luo Xiaofeng? Murong Ying reminded them. Luo Xiaofeng, who just said that he had the ability to protect himself, was now climbing the dump truck at the back of the car. He was using both his arms and legs, but he was very clumsy and could not get up. In the end, Li Fan could not bear it and reached out to pull him up. Thank you, thank you. Luo Xiaofeng sat in the car and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. This Luo Xiaofeng was a little fat and obviously lacked exercise. These pharmacists probably sat in front of the furnace every day, refining pills day and night, and did not have the time to exercise. It seems that Dr. Luo needs a bodyguard. Li Fan looked at Luo Xiaofeng and could not help but want to laugh at him. Li Fan, you have to be nicer to Luo Xiaofeng. Sometimes, Murong Ying liked to make decisions for others, which made Li Fan a little confused. Don't forget, you run an escort agency. Murong Ying reminded Li Fan. Which escort agency doesn't live on the edge of a knife? Having a pharmacist will only benefit your agency. She looked at Li Fan's shocked expression and paused for a moment before continuing. Furthermore, the pharmacists of the Valley of the Medicine Masters are highly sought after in the martial arts world. Even the 4 alliances of the martial arts world treat pharmacists as distinguished guests. What you have is what all the famous sects in Jianghu want. Chapter 487. Murong Ying took Li Fan and the others all the way back to city. Li Fan arranged for Luo Xiaofeng to stay in the small earth building of the company and specially found someone to build a small courtyard for him with bricks and tiles. Murong Ying provided the Shenong cauldron, and Luo Xiaofeng went in and was unwilling to come out. The Jianghu had been turbulent recently, and Li Fan's mobile app updated the news of the Jianghu every day. Recently, the most talked about sect in the Jianghu was the Invincible sect. This evil sect had been silent for a long time, and seemed to have gathered its strength and began to stir up waves in the Jianghu. Every sect was more or less attacked by the evil sect, and the whole Jianghu was filled with the smell of gunpowder. And as the leader of the Jianghu, Murong Ying was really busy now. Not only did she sign all kinds of documents every day, she often went out to run around. An Taizhu, since the last time Murong Ying was imprisoned, followed his mistress closely, for fear that she would encounter any danger. In city, it seemed to be the two extremes. Recently it was very comfortable. The Yellow Clothes Society was equivalent to being destroyed, and the remaining 2 forces were frantically fighting for the territory of the Yellow Clothes Society. This time, Lu Xinan and Yang Ruining completely fell out, and the Vanguard Army and the Red Dragon Society would occasionally fight. However, this did not affect Li Fan at all. Every day, he went to school, occasionally went to the company, and usually concentrated on practicing martial arts at home. Big brother, something is really not right. When Li Fan was resting in the dojo at home, he received a call from Huang Lei. Old Guan and Psycho Yen have been out for a month. Huang Lei always had a bad feeling. How can a mission take so long? Can you contact them? After hearing what Huang Lei said, Li Fan also felt strange. Did something really happen to these 2 people? I can't contact them. In order to prevent malicious tracking, they left their phones at home. I got it. I'll send someone to inquire about them. Li Fan hung up and called Ling Tian. You mean the 2 of them? This was the first time Ling Tian was unable to fulfill Li Fan's request. I do have some information in the underworld, but I don't know much about the matters of the pugilistic world. However, you already have good resources by your side, so why did you come looking for me? I got it. Li Fan knew who Ling Tian was talking about, but it was impossible for him to shamelessly beg Murong Ying. What's the point of saving face at this time? Li Fan secretly blamed himself. His brother's whereabouts were unknown, And he was still fussing over the issue of face? He patted his cheeks and stood up. Li Fan, who was wearing a loose martial attire, turned around and left the training hall, arriving at the study room on the second floor. The gold and silver swordsman was like a door god, guarding the door of the study room. Just as Li Fan was about to go forward, the two of them pulled out their swords at the same time, staring at Li Fan like a tiger watching its prey. What's the meaning of this? Li Fan frowned. Without master summon, outsiders are not allowed to enter. The gold and silver swordsman said very impolitely. Interesting. Li Fan sneered. I'm in my own home. Do I need to be controlled by you guys? You can do whatever you want in other rooms, but not here. The gold and silver swordsman's attitude was firm. The silver swordsman added, also, don't forget, this is master's home, not yours. You're awesome. Li Fan gave a thumbs up. This brother's words were definitely to provoke his anger. Go back. The gold swordsman pointed his sword at Li Fan. Otherwise, it won't be good for you. Then what if I insist on going in? Li Fan asked. No matter who you are, you'll be a corpse in the next second. The silver swordsman's words might be similar to Murong Ying's, but it also completely infuriated Li Fan. Get out of the way. Li Fan took a step forward, and the gold and silver swordsman's swords pierced toward Li Fan at the same time. However, Li Fan stretched out his hands and grabbed a sword in each hand. Although the sword chi of the gold and silver swordsman was sharp, it couldn't break through Li Fan's body protection. Get lost. Li Fan pushed with his hand, and the sword hilt hit the chest of the gold and silver swordsman, poking one of their acupoints. The blood of the two was immediately blocked. They half knelt on the ground at the same time, unable to move for a long time. Next time, when you're stronger, come and play with me. Li Fan said, and under the unwilling gazes of the two, he walked into Murong Ying's study. Although it was a study for Murong Ying, it was no different from an office. She worked here every day and was very busy. Tai Zhu was in the kitchen, making some supplements for his miss to eat. At this time, Murong Ying was gently lying on her desk, seemingly taking a nap. Although Li Fan was a little angry just now that he saw Murong Ying, his anger dissipated. This girl must be exhausted. She seemed to be sleeping quite quiet. If only she could be like this all the time, how obedient she would be. Li Fan couldn't help but stretch out his hand, wanting to touch Murong Ying's hair. But at this time, the hair on Li Fan's hand suddenly trembled, and he subconsciously retracted his right hand. Ding! A red tasseled flying knife pierced the wall next to him. If Li Fan hadn't retracted his hand in time, his palm would have been pierced. Who is it? Li Fan immediately looked back, but Murong Ying seemed to be too tired. She was still sleeping soundly and didn't wake up. The main thing was that the flying knife just now didn't have any murderous intent towards Murong Ying. Otherwise, even if she was sleeping soundly, she would definitely wake up in time. The room was empty, and only one window was open. Hey, wanna play? I will accompany you. Li Fan walked to the window, bent his knees, and jumped out of the window. 3 flying knives immediately shot over from the opposite side, forming a triangular shape, shooting straight at Li Fan. But this didn't pose a problem for Li Fan. His body spun in the air, and 2 fingers flicked, sending the 3 flying knives flying. Another 2 flying knives drew an arc in the air, one up and one down, one left and one right, shooting at Li Fan. Li Fan didn't panic. His body shook in the air, and he actually stepped on the 2 flying knives. He stepped on them and flew to the opposite roof. Pa pa pa! Another 3 flying knives, this time in a straight line, like a train, went straight to Li Fan's face. Li Fan couldn't help but be in awe. No matter what, the person opposite was a master of flying knives. He actually didn't have the confidence to deflect these 3 flying knives. Each of the flying daggers carried an astonishing amount of force, capable of piercing through him several times. It seemed that the other party really wanted to take his life. Chapter 488. Li Fan's body was in the air. Facing these 3 flying daggers with extremely strong penetrative power, he was also somewhat at a disadvantage. But Li Fan quickly adjusted his state. He took a deep breath and entered the lightning deer state. Li Fan's body spun in the air. He consecutively kicked out 3 rushing thunder feet. 3 electric lights flashed in the air. The 3 daggers were kicked away by Li Fan one after another. Dang, dang, dang. These 3 daggers were nailed to the opposite wall. The hilts of the daggers were embedded into the wall. But before Li Fan could be complacent, a flying dagger appeared in front of his eyebrows. This flying dagger was silent. When Li Fan was dealing with the 3 flying daggers, it had already arrived in front of him. If not for Li Fan's bullet time vision, perhaps this flying dagger would have already pierced through his eyebrows. But in the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint, Li Fan's true chi condensed at a high speed and quickly emerged from his body. A vague figure stood up from behind him. It stretched out a true chi palm. With a snap, it grabbed the flying dagger in front of Li Fan's eyebrows. The figure condensed from true chi only appeared for a second before it dissipated. The sneak attack of the flying dagger also lost its attack power and fell to the ground. But Li Fan's reaction was very fast. He lifted his foot and kicked the flying dagger. The flying dagger drew an arc in the air and stabbed towards the figure on the roof. Dang! This flying dagger collided with another flying dagger. Both of them were sent flying in the air. But Li Fan also bought time. His body flashed in the air and landed on the roof of the opposite building. And a handsome pale-faced young man wearing a white trench coat was standing there. His right arm was wrapped in bandages and he was holding 3 flying daggers in his hand. Sorry, I'm already in front of you. Li Fan stood in front of this pale-faced young man and stared at him. This person looked the same as Yan Kai. He was obviously a man, but he was quite handsome. His hair was silver white and tied into a ponytail, hanging neatly behind him. He wore a black mask with a black dragon printed on it. Looking at this guy, he looked like a chunibyu. Do you want to report your name before launching a sneak attack on someone else's doorstep? I have nothing to say to a shameless person like you. The other party's voice was slightly rough. He glared at Li Fan as if he was very hostile. Which organization are you from? Can you at least tell me? Li Fan asked. The Embroidered Uniform Guard? Vanguard? Golden Eagle Castle? Storm? Devil Cult? After Li Fan finished speaking, he could not help but complain. Damn, I seem to have offended too many organizations. Guess it yourself. The pale-faced man threw out 2 more flying knives, but Li Fan's figure had disappeared in front of him. In the time it took to breathe, Li Fan was standing next to him, a finger pressed against his temple. If I were you, I'd have a calm talk. Li Fan persuaded. Even if I die, I'll bring you to hell with me. The pale-faced man said as he opened his trench coat, revealing several rows of flying knives hanging inside. Fuck, this person, if he goes out on the street with this, won't he be arrested as a terrorist? Then you should leave first. Li Fan was about to kill when a figure suddenly fell down and reached out to grab Li Fan's arm. A familiar fragrance. What are you doing? Li Fan looked at Murong-ing with some dissatisfaction. Are you here to snatch my head? Snatch what head? We're on the same side. Murong-ing rolled her eyes at Li Fan, then with a gentle tone she said to the pale-faced man, Why are you here? On the same side? Li Fan was stunned for a moment. This was different from the organization he imagined. 2 things suddenly appeared that caught Li Fan's attention. One was the identity of this man, and the other was some kind of kung fu that he had just displayed during the crisis. True chi seemed to condense into something in an instant, turning illusion into reality. It seemed to be a certain state of sky-swallowing toad. But this state seemed to be stronger than the usual sky-swallowing toad. It was just a matter of a moment, but it really made Li Fan somewhat uncertain. Eldest miss, please marry me. This man actually knelt down in front of Murong-ing and said very sincerely, Please be my woman. Let me stay by your side. Murong-ing was obviously speechless, and Li Fan was also taken aback. Fuck, what's going on? Why did he propose to Murong-ing? Are you mistaken? Li Fan frowned and stood in front of Murong-ing. Murong-ing is my woman. Humph, but you can't protect your woman. The pale-faced man sneered, otherwise she wouldn't have been imprisoned. This has nothing to do with Li Fan. Murong-ing also defended Li Fan. He wasn't there at the time. That's because he didn't fulfill his responsibility as a husband. The pale-faced man continued to say unyieldingly, if it were me, I would protect Miss at all times. I have been training myself since I was young. I want to marry Miss and become her protector. Can I beat him? Li Fan asked. Hey, stop messing around. Murong-ing had a headache. There have been enough things recently. You two don't add to my troubles. How can I hold back my anger when someone is trying to steal my wife? Li Fan clenched his fists, and his knuckles made cracking sounds. The pale-faced man also grabbed the throwing knife with both hands, ready to fight at any time. Calm down, Li Fan. Tian is a woman. Not even a woman. Li Fan froze for a moment. Another woman? Murong-ing has already pulled off the mask of the pale-faced man. Sure enough, a beautiful woman's face was revealed. No wonder she looks like a woman. It turns out she's really a woman. Miss, it doesn't matter if it's a woman. It seems that without the mask, the woman's voice has returned to normal. I have been learning to be a man since I was young. I will protect you like a man. As they spoke, Taiju, who was standing at the window, shouted at them. Miss, son-in-law, dinner is ready. Sir Taiju. When the woman saw Taiju, her face was full of envy. I will definitely take Taiju as my goal. What the? You can forget about it. Li Fan almost collapsed. Another person like Taiju, he definitely can't stand it. What a strange worldview, to actually take Taiju as his goal. Li Fan, let me introduce you. Yin family is my Murong family's retainer for generations. This Yin Tian is one of my loyal retainers. By the way, last time I sent her to protect you, it was her. Li Fan is a bit confused. Damn, such a tomboy is called Tian. And the other one is so soft, but is called Taiju. What is wrong with this world? Chapter 489. There were a lot of things that Li Fan couldn't figure out. But the matter in front of him made him even more puzzled. Looking at Yin Tian sitting across from him with a piece of bread in her hand and looking at Murong-ing who was eating with a face full of love, Li Fan felt uncomfortable no matter how he looked at it. He was really drunk. How could there be such a weirdo in this world? Li Fan was very puzzled. He thought that this world was too big and there were too many weirdos, so he couldn't recognize them all. Son-in-law, this is charcoal roasted beef treasure, eat more. Taiju shyly placed a plate of beef treasure in front of Li Fan. Eat more to nourish your body. Fuck, I eat beef treasure to nourish my dick? Fuck, it really nourishes my dick. Li Fan felt a headache coming on. How should he deal with this table of weirdos? It was enough to have Taiju, but now there was also Yin Tian who was coveting his fiancée. Beef treasure is not nourishing, it's all rumors. Brother-in-law doesn't need this kind of thing. Murong sat beside Li Fan and put a plate of braised pigtail into Li Fan's plate. Brother-in-law, it's a form of nourishing what you eat. Come eat some of this. Fuck. Is your brother-in-law's vitals like a pigtail? Or is it rolled? Li Fan almost peed his pants because of Murong's love. He thought to himself, you little girl, how many times have you eaten it? Don't you know what it looks like? What does it mean to hold up the sky? What does it mean to be the godly needle of the East Sea? This girl is just deliberately teasing me. It was mainly because Li Fan was busy practicing that he might have neglected to keep in touch with Murong's love. This little girl, in private, was still very attached to him. And the gold and silver swords stood at the side, glaring at him, wishing that their gazes could turn into swords and poke holes in Li Fan. This family is really awesome. That day, there was only him and Murong-ing staying here. At most, there was Taiju, which was quite tiring. Now, there were 4 more mouthfuls. It was practically destroying his heart. Although the pressure of life was great, it shouldn't be like this. Li Fan was considering whether he should look for a house. That day, he was willing to live in Murong Ying's house because he didn't have much money. But now, his escort agency was slowly on the right track. Even if he couldn't afford to buy a house, he could at least afford to rent one. If all else failed, he would just stay in his own earthen building. But Yin Xiaoru and Xia Hong were there. It didn't seem very convenient. However, it was time to think about it. It was not a good idea to always stay at Murong Ying's place. "Brother-in-law, what are you thinking about?" Seeing that her brother-in-law was in a daze, constantly fiddling with the pig's tail with a fork, Murong's AI finally couldn't help but ask. Li Fan returned to business. Wife, is Murong's family's intelligence network powerful? Hearing Li Fan's question, Murong Ying, who was originally focused on eating, raised her head and looked at Li Fan in confusion. "Not bad. What do you want?" "Old Guan and Yen Kai have been out for more than a month, and there's no news of them." Li Fan asked, "Can you help me investigate their whereabouts?" Murong Ying gestured to Golden Swordsman, who immediately cupped his hands and left the dining room. After 5 or 6 minutes, he walked back in and whispered something in Murong Ying's ear. "Got it." Murong Ying nodded and then told Li Fan, "I didn't find any news of them. However, Murong's family's intelligence network is limited. If you want to know something, I recommend you to see the Phoenix King." Phoenix King? Who the hell was this guy? What a fantastic name. He's the all-knowing man in Jianghu, the biggest intelligence dealer. Murong Ying said, he claims that his birds are everywhere in Jianghu, collecting intelligence for him. And he himself is the king of all birds, so people call him the Phoenix King. The all-knowing man in Jianghu? Yes. Murong Ying nodded. He's very famous and has a high status in Jianghu. It's said that there's no news in Jianghu that he doesn't know. He even knows what kind of underwear my father wears. Holy shit. Really? Then what do you wear? Yin Tian threw a flying knife, which was caught by Li Fan's fingers. Don't worry. Although his intelligence network is powerful, it must be under surveillance. Murong Ying smiled. Except for you and Xiao AI, I won't show my underwear in front of others. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly froze and continued to eat with her head down. Li Fan didn't notice the hidden meaning in her words. He was only worried about the safety of his 2 brothers. Where is this Phoenix King? I'll go find him. The fastest way is in Songjiang. Murong Ying reminded Li Fan, but this Phoenix King is unreasonable. Every time he asks for intelligence, he will ask for a reward. Instead, the reward will depend on his mood. Now is not the time to worry about this. Li Fan said, Old Guan and Yen Kai's lives are hanging by a thread. I have to find them quickly. Okay, Tian, then you send Li Fan to the Yellow Springs Road. Huh? The Yellow Springs Road? Does he want me to die? The Yellow Springs Road is a place name, Murong Ying added. Miss, I don't want to send him. I hate him, and want to vomit. Yin Tian said bluntly. This is an order. Murong Ying was incomparably domineering and decisively ordered, accompany him to the Yellow Springs Road, not sleep with him. Why so many things? Okay, since it's Mrs. Request, I will do it even if I have to sacrifice my life. Yin Tian reluctantly agreed, not to mention enduring a guy who disgusts me. Tell me where it is. I will go myself. Li Fan was unhappy as if he was begging her. Only the guide can take you to the Yellow Springs Road. Murong Ying explained, you have to control your temper. After all, it's to save people. Brother-in-law, I want to go too. Murong's eyes lit up. I heard the Yellow Springs Road is a very fun place. Fuck, where did you hear this from? No, Xiao AI is not allowed to go. Without waiting for Li Fan to speak, Murong Ying flatly refused. Li Fan, you and Tian set off after dinner. She thought for a moment and ordered the silver swordsman to bring a black box. This box contains a night-luminescent pearl the size of an egg from Nanyang. Use this to exchange for information from the Phoenix King. He should agree. Okay, thank you. For the safety of his brother, Li Fan had to accept it for the time being. I owe you. Murong Ing seemed to be a little dissatisfied. Tai Zhu hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Son-in-law, we are a family. Why do you always say you owe me? A family? Li Fan glanced at Yin Tian and the silver swordsman who were hostile to him. Are they really a family? Chapter 490. Taking advantage of the night, Li Fan and Yin Tian went all the way to Songjiang. The two of them were never meant to be together, but for the sake of Murong Ing, they were forced to be together. Tai Zhu sent them to the edge of Songjiang. As soon as the car drove away, the two of them immediately took 10 steps to the side, widening the distance between them. Oof, you can smell the stench from 10 meters away. Are you a dog? Li Fan rolled his eyes at Yin Tian. Send me to the underworld, and then you can do whatever you want. I'm happy to send you to the underworld. Yin Tian said and smiled. Her hands were holding a few knives, staring at Li Fan as if she was looking at a corpse. If we really fight, the one who will die is you. Li Fan told the truth, so I advise you to calm down. If it wasn't because of Mrs. Order, who would accompany you to this place? Yin Tian was still complaining. Staying with you for one more minute, I feel like I'm better off dead. Psycho. Li Fan felt that this Yin Tian was a bit unreasonable. Her sexual orientation was not normal, but she also had some serious delusions. But if you can die in this place, that would be great. At that time, I can marry Miss, accompany her to the church and have children. Psycho, quickly point the way. Li Fan bluntly scolded. Yin Tian reluctantly walked over, stood on the shore, and then took out a searchlight. She pointed it at the river a few times, as if she was giving some kind of signal. At this time, it was spring. The river ice had melted, and the river water was surging. After a long time, there was still no movement. What are you doing? Li Fan was a bit puzzled. What's the hurry? Wait. Yin Tian snorted. Smelly man is impatient, rushing to reincarnate. Damn, this Yin Tian is asking for a beating. Li Fan felt that the devil sex Lu Runju was much more pleasing to the eye than her. Li Fan waited in the cold wind. His eyes fell on Lu Runju's right arm, looking at the bandage. Is your right hand injured? What do you know? Yin Tian touches her right arm and says very proudly, in my right arm, there is a terrifying black dragon sealed. If it is released, the world will be destroyed. The way Yin Tian spoke and acted was just like a boy with Chunibu syndrome. She had a handsome ponytail and was wearing boots. She pointed at Li Fan with her right hand. You, don't mess with me, or I'll use this black dragon to devour you. Li Fan felt speechless. This sister's brain was full of shit. At this moment, the sound of the river splashing could be heard. Finally, there was movement. Li Fan turned around and saw a flower boat approaching them. This flower boat was not long, only 5 meters long. There were 9 red lanterns hanging on the boat, making it look like a high-class ancient moving brothel. Go up. As Yin Tian spoke, she stepped on the ground and landed lightly on the opposite ship. Li Fan gently bent his knees and bounced up. After a roll in the air, he steadily landed on the boat. His qinggong was heaven-defying. When he landed, the flower boat did not even sway a bit. Yin Tian seemed to be slightly surprised, but she did not say anything. No matter how good your qinggong is, it is only for escaping. A short and stout boatman led them into the flower boat. In the middle of the boat, there was a clean short table. Yin Tian kneeled beside the short table. Li Fan, who does not like to kneel, sat cross-legged opposite her. Miss Yin, may I ask what you want? A beautiful woman dressed in traditional Chinese clothing walked over, holding a wine menu and placed it in front of Yin Tian. She actually called out Yin Tian's name, making Li Fan somewhat surprised. 2 cups of Huangshan's new Hong. Yin Tian ordered a wine that was not on the menu, but the beautiful attendant nodded her head. She turned around and left for a while. Not long later, she served 2 cups of wine in luminous glasses. May I know who Miss Een is entertaining this time? The beautiful attendant sat there and asked politely after serving the two of them the wine. Little tyrant, Li Fan. Een Tian Tian said Li Fan's name, and the beautiful attendant smiled at Li Fan. Hello, Mr. Li. I hope you have a good time in the Yellow Springs. Li Fan felt very awkward when he heard this, but he did not know how to return the greeting. He could only quietly watch as Een Tian Tian made the arrangements. After the beautiful attendant served the wine, she stood up and left. In the cabin, only the two of them were left. The boat slowly moved. Li Fan looked at Een Tian Tian, feeling a little awkward. He simply closed his eyes and calmed himself down, silently circulating the inner force in his body. You actually closed your eyes? Unexpectedly, this action made Een Tian Tian very unhappy. Bastard, I haven't even disgusted you yet, and you're disgusting me first? Een Tian Tian seemed to be a little angry. She said to Li Fan in dissatisfaction, Li Fan, don't think that you're great just because you're the fiancé of the eldest miss. In our Murong family, and in the Een family, no one acknowledges you. You're telling the truth. Li Fan did not care. He raised the wine cup and took a sip. This wine was really cool. Not only did it not have the strong taste of alcohol, but it also had a sweet and fragrant smell. Good wine. That's the truth. No matter how you defend yourself, you're just a freeloader. Een Tian Tian said mercilessly, just like today, if it wasn't for the help of the eldest miss, you could only watch your brother die. Yes, what you said makes sense. And then? Li Fan asked, aren't I still Murong Ying's fiancé? Gigolo. I'll take that as a compliment. Li Fan did not have much confidence in his appearance. He looked like an ordinary person, but after practicing martial arts, he became a lot more spirited. I didn't choose the path in the beginning. But since I've already walked, I'll walk to the end. Li Fan said very calmly, I know you people look down on me, but everything I have now, I relied on my own fists to fight for it. Shameless. It was obviously the eldest miss who gave you everything. Dang. Li Fan's wine cup was slammed into the table by him. He looked coldly at Een Tian Tian. Little friend, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. I've already repaid what I owed to Murong Ing. I'll tell you again, everything I have is from my own hard work. Didn't you use Murong swordsmanship today? Een Tian Tian pointed at the matter of Li Fan using 2 fingers to flick the flying knife in the air. And your internal strength, didn't it all come from the eldest miss's body? I don't blame you for not understanding. Li Fan's eyes were cold, but once you enter the Yellow Springs, you can scram. Chapter 491. For the sake of eldest miss, I didn't kill you. Een Tian Tian seemed to be warning Li Fan, don't take it too far. It's important to know yourself. We really have a tacit understanding. Li Fan couldn't help but clap his hands. For the sake of Murong Ing, I let you live until now. Although your skills are not bad, if I really want to kill you, you can only wait for your death. Een Tian Tian seemed to look down on Li Fan's kung fu. Li Fan frowned. His palm slammed on the table, and the luminous cup that was embedded in it suddenly flew out and appeared in front of the two of them. In the next second, Li Fan's palm was about to slap the wine cup and then let the wine cup pierce through Een Tian Tian's brain. But at this moment, it seemed that because Li Fan slammed the table and raised some dust, Een Tian Tian suddenly sneezed. Li Fan didn't know why, but he subconsciously avoided Een Tian Tian. The wine cup was hit by him, and it flew past Een Tian Tian's ear, hit the wall behind her, and was embedded in it. Een Tian Tian blinked her eyes and then asked softly, why are you angry? Why are you angry? This soft voice, compared to the tomboy Een Tian Tian from before, was like a completely different feeling. As she let down her hair, letting it flow down, she said to Li Fan at the same time, Brother Li, this wine cup is very expensive. If you break it, the owner of the boat will be very angry. Li Fan frowned as he looked at the Een Tian Tian in front of him, who seemed to have changed into a different person. What's wrong? Nothing. Yin Tian Tian tilted her head and looked at Li Fan with some confusion. Brother Li, what happened? You're different from before. Li Fan couldn't help but want to roar. Are you playing with me? How could that be? Brother Li is eldest Mrs. Fiancé. How could Tian Tian make you angry? Yin Tian Tian said charmingly. Is Brother Li a little seasick? Don't worry, we'll be there soon. Brother Li, just bear with it for a while more. The way she called him Big Brother Li was really sweet. Are you kidding me? Looking at this beautiful woman with long black hair in front of him, Li Fan felt a little dizzy. Don't you hate me? How could this be? Yin Tian Tian exclaimed. How could Tian Tian hate Brother Li? Tian Tian likes to be friends with everyone. This was a completely feminine way of speaking, completely different from the style just now. Li Fan had a headache. He simply ignored Yin Tian Tian to prevent his headache from worsening. This girl, who knows what's wrong with her? Brother Li, do you want anything else to drink? Yin Tian Tian kept asking. Brother Li, are you tired? Tian Tian will give you a massage. With that, this girl really walked behind Li Fan and started to massage his shoulders. Li Fan originally wanted to refuse, but this girl's technique seemed to be quite good. It was quite comfortable. Li Fan originally wanted to refuse, but he swallowed it back into his stomach. At this moment, it was really hard to refuse. Brother Li's muscles are very strong. One look and I can tell that you've been training hard. I admire Brother Li's hard work the most. You're Tian Tian's role model. Didn't you say that? I'm just a gigolo? How could that be? Who in their right mind would say such nonsense? Yin Tian Tian flatly denied. Brother Li has been training hard. Usually, I've been secretly observing you. You've been secretly observing me? Li Fan was a little surprised. Yes, it was eldest miss who ordered me to secretly protect Brother Li. Yin Tian Tian nodded seriously. The fragrance from her body floated into Li Fan's nose, making him feel a little itchy. Tian Tian has been carrying out your mission well. All right then, Muronging also had good intentions. Li Fan also didn't want to scold her. He asked some irrelevant questions, but his words completely showed that Yin Tian Tian didn't remember what she said before. But the things that Muronging ordered her to do, she remembered clearly. The boat should be arriving soon. Yin Tian Tian glanced at the ancient clock hanging on the wall. Just as she finished her words, the boat trembled slightly and seemed to have stopped. Following that, the cabin that the two of them were in started to shake. Following that, the table actually slowly sank down. What the hell? Li Fan frowned as he looked at the floor that they were sitting on sinking into the water. They seemed to be sitting on a lift surrounded by a glass wall that could see the murky water outside. But the bottom of the water was very dim, and they couldn't see any creatures around. Perhaps there were many fishes swimming in front of them, but they just couldn't see them. It's okay, Brother Li. This Yellow Springs is under Songjiang. Yin Tian Tian comforted Li Fan. The floor continued to descend and finally fell into a deep underground passage. Yin Tian Tian and Li Fan walked out from the floor and stood in this underground passage. Next to the passage, there was an underground express train. Li Fan didn't know what to say. Should he say that this Phoenix King's hands and eyes are everywhere? To be able to build an unknown subway station in the underground of Songjiang. How huge the financial resources were needed to do this. Let's go. The train leaves on the It's almost time. Yin Tian Tian was like a tour guide as she pulled Li Fan into the train. At this time, there were already some other passengers in the train. Some of them wore suits and leather shoes, and some wore ancient clothes. They came in all shapes and sizes, and it was unknown what their identities were. Everyone remained mysterious and silent to each other. Yin Tian Tian reminded Li Fan not to talk much and took him into an empty carriage. Are they all going to Yellow Springs Road? Li Fan finally couldn't help but ask. Yin Tian Tian nodded. Yellow Springs Road is a very famous place. However, Itanan doesn't like it there very much. Li Fan was very curious. What kind of place is this Yellow Springs Road? It's just, I don't like it. When Brother Li goes there, you will know. In Tian Tian reminded him, but the girls on Yellow Springs Road are particularly bad. Brother Li, don't talk to them. Otherwise, you will be tricked by them to eat you. They will eat you until there are no bones left. Damn, so scary, Li Fan was shocked. Then I should be careful when the time comes. Yellow Springs Road? What kind of place is it? Li Fan became more and more curious, and the train finally started slowly. The speed of the fast train was also amazing. It was rumbling forward under the ground. Li Fan was practicing his qi, but the door of the carriage was suddenly opened. A male passenger walked in. He seemed to be travel-worn and in a hurry. On his waist, there was a ID tag inadvertently revealed. It was dark black with a yen seal character on it. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.